A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and real pleasure and privilege to welcome our secretaries. We have with us the Secretary, Department of Expenditure, Secretary DIPAM, Secretary DFS, Secretary DEA, and the Chief Economic Advisor here with us in a very star-studded post-budget discussion, the day after budget. And also Rajiv Memani, the president this year of the CII. Secretaries, CEA, this is a very, very special session for us. And we are indeed most privileged to have all of you on the dais. And I would just like to not just welcome, but compliment and congratulate all of you for giving us such a great budget yesterday, and a day prior to that, an excellent economic survey, which was so insightful. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in very warmly welcoming and thanking and congratulating this wonderful panel that we have here with us. As we will, there are several areas of plus points or positive points that were pointed out by several communities, including, of course, industry, CII. We spoke about some of the features which throws up many opportunities, which throws up our strength of the economy, throws up the participation, the partnership of the government and the industry to really keep the growth path strong and to open up many areas. But we did appreciate very strongly the fiscal consolidation without compromising on growth, and I'm sure this star-studded panel of secretaries would touch upon it. We also talked about the quality of expenditure, which is clearly moved, a very strong focus on a qualitative focus on expenditure. We talked about the budget reinforcing the importance of institutions and systems, and I'm not going into the details, but there are several features of that too that we have seen in the budget. But one big gift was the continuance of the private capex, which has been a demand. And if it was last year, we would have been, and before, I'm not preempting any challenge, but if it was a last year, we would have talked perhaps about whether the private sector is investing or not. Now that the private sector is investing strongly, the continuance of private, the public capex would really crowd in. So CII perspectives have been particularly very, very strong in complementing the budget in many areas, but it always gives us this opportunity for interaction and also suggesting a few thoughts that comes from our membership. And this is a strong presence of the CII membership in this room, and we have this august presence of a phenomenal panel to talk to us about some of their thoughts. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I once again welcome this very strong panel of secretaries, and thank you very much for making it to this meeting. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to your remarks, followed by observations and some questions for you to kindly consider. So once again, thank you and welcome. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. To start off, if I can request the Chief Economic Advisor, again, someone. Actually, the CA addressed the CII's National Council the day after he presented his economic survey, and it was an excellent interaction that we had with him, where we were in Ahmedabad on the 30th. But Dr. Nageshwaran, as I invite you into this to talk to us, I mentioned about about your economic survey, but from a macro perspective, how should we in the industry interpret the balance between fiscal consolidation and growth support in the medium term, especially given the volatile global environment, something that you've featured. And you have consistently in your previous economic surveys and this one, been very special and very different from the economic surveys that we had seen earlier by bringing out some social indicators extremely strongly. And we see the country's budget also focus on those social indicators in a very strong way in the budget speech itself by the Honorable Finance Minister. So would be nice to hear from you, your opening remarks on some of these areas and more. Over to you, CA.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, CB, for those words of introduction. And President CI, Mr. Rajiv Memani, my dear colleagues from the Ministry of Finance, ladies and gentlemen, happy to be here to share some thoughts on the budget. So it's important to understand that the budget is about the specifics and details of structural transformation. Because the reforms that the government has been pursuing have happened throughout the course of the year. And as the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned, the Reform Express is well and truly running, and it will continue to run. So reforms have been happening outside of the budget cycle, and that is how it should be. Policy making is a 365-day job. It's not just confined to one day of the budget alone. So if the budget did not contain big bang announcements, because big bang announcements have been happening already and will continue to do so. Therefore, the budget has to be seen as consolidating the gains and the thrust of those big bang reforms, and to make sure that the right macro atmosphere, stability, and fiscal prudence give the support to the structural reforms that are undertaken outside of the budget making exercise. And that is why this budget scores well, because it is a tidy, no frills document and deals with, as I said earlier, the nuts and bolts of structural transformation. It plays the patient waiting game, and it is meant for the long term. And I'm particularly gratified as on behalf of my team in the economics division that put the economic survey together, that the budget takes its cue from several of the important priorities that the survey had identified. I mean, the first thing I would mention is that the budget's focus is on strategic resilience, which is about making sure that we are able to function even if the world doesn't supply certain things to us, which is going to be a fact of life for the next several years, maybe even a decade or two. So, for example, the emphasis on rare earths mining, processing, and manufacturing, the announcement of the rare earths corridor, the focus on construction and infrastructure equipment manufacturing. I mean, some of us know about the hurdles that we face in importing tunnel boring equipments, etc. And then chemicals manufacturing, because ultimately these go into both health products as well as industrial applications, and even fertilizers, and then the biopharma mission, just to name a few of them. So these are definitely areas that will enhance our strategic resilience. The second area that the survey spoke about in order to boost manufacturing, of course, the survey mentioned the importance of looking at cross-subsidization that raises the costs on industry, and I think that is an important point to keep in mind for the future. And the power amendment bill, the electricity amendment bill that is making its way through the portals of government and the legislature does talk about eliminating cross-subsidization in a few years' time, which is one more example of reforms happening outside the budget cycle. So the input cost reduction for the industry, which is important if we have to become a manufacturing player, and that is happening both in the budget and in parallel outside the budget as well. But definitely the reduction in various customs duty rates and exemptions on several components, parts in electronics and several other areas are part of this input cost reduction strategy, whether it is in labor intensive manufacturing or high-tech manufacturing. In fact, that is why I think the way to piece the budget together is to read part A and B together in several areas, and which is what I would strongly recommend to you to look at the copy of a document available on the website called the Key Features of the Budget. It is one of the various budget documents that is put out there, along with budget at a glance, budget highlights, etc. Apart from the various detailed PDFs, there is something called Key Features of the Budget. It's on the website, and that tries to compile the proposals in part A and B together, depending on areas, whether it is sustaining growth, whether it is in strengthening the foundations of growth, people-centric development, trust-based governance systems, ease of doing business and ease of living, and of course the various fiscal parameters. So those are the headings under which that document covers both part A and part B of the budget speech of the Honorable Finance Minister. Now, in the economic survey, we spoke a lot about the importance of manufacturing, and the budget does justice to both manufacturing and services in ample measure. Manufacturing matters because if you look at chapter 3 of the economic survey, particularly on the financial sector and on the external sector chapter in the economic survey, we point out based on international evidence, especially most of us are concerned about the valuation of the Indian rupee, and of course, the concerns have been expressed so often that I mentioned in my press conference after the economic survey that we have reached a point of diminishing marginal utility, talking about the rupee in public. But from the medium term perspective, the way we address the rupee's value is through boosting manufacturing. Post Bretton Woods era, in the last 52 years, if you look at countries whom you think of immediately when you think of a strong and stable currency, are the ones which have made a niche for themselves in manufacturing. Germany, Singapore, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, and China as well, definitely. So these are the countries you associate, and equally conversely, countries which have lost their manufacturing mojo have actually begun to experience slightly weaker currencies, and I don't need to name them. So manufacturing matters. If you are looking at a long-term reputation as a currency for strength and stability, manufacturing matters. Therefore, manufacturing goods, even if you are good in services sector surpluses, it doesn't really give such a boost to currency valuations as manufacturing does. So that is one element. And the second, you have to have manufacturing goods export and external surpluses to have meaningful and sustained reduction in cost of capital. Because we all think of, oh, we have to do enough to deepen the bond market, we have to do this, we have to do that in the debt market, etc., to lower the cost of capital. They are useful, they are adjuncts, they are nice to have. But what brings the cost of capital down in a meaningful way is to be able to become a manufacturing powerhouse. Of course, it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. These countries took a generation or two, or even longer, in the case of European powers, to get to where they were, and they did it in more propitious circumstances. Our circumstances are much more hostile or unfavorable, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try. In fact, it only means we should try harder. And that trying harder isn't only the responsibility or the prerogative of the government. It behoves both the private sector and the government to do whatever they can on both sides, and the economic survey talks about it in chapter 16. But coming back to the budget, that is why the very first topic that the Honorable Finance Minister focused on was on the boost to manufacturing as part of the first Kartavya in 7 areas. I need to leave something for my colleagues to speak, so I won't go into the details about it. But the important thing is that in multiple areas, such as, for example, AI insular or AI immune skilling areas, if you look at the emphasis on allied health professionals, if you look at the emphasis on orange economy or tourist guides, in all these areas, the focus is on making sure that we invest in human-centric skills which are vital, so that there is an opportunity to skill our youth both with respect to harnessing AI and also with respect to participating in the economy in ways where AI will not necessarily dent their employment or livelihood prospects. So much thought has gone into these proposals as well. Lastly, let me conclude before my colleagues share their thoughts. On the STT, it's important to look at it not as on the short-term transaction tax on futures and options. It is important not to look at it as a revenue generation measure. In 2025, the government restricted online gaming activities, and this is only confined to futures and options. If the government was interested in using it as a revenue generating measure, please do recall when the capital gains tax was, long-term capital gains tax rate was increased to 12.5%, the government made sure that the first 1 lakh of capital gains was excluded from taxation, and that number was raised to 1.25 lakhs. 90% of the capital gains taxpayers actually have capital gains of less than 1 lakh. So they were exempted from tax. So the purpose is not revenue. The purpose is to make sure that the hard-earned savings of households do stay with them and help them to maximize their wealth and not be lost in speculation. Because if you look at the SEBI working paper, which they put out 2 years ago, 9 out of 10 trades in these areas, futures and options, lose money for the underlying speculator or the investor. This is like you can never beat the casino. And futures and options, especially the much shorter duration ones, because they have a very rapid value deterioration in terms of the gamma and vega. So basically, the time to maturity being so short, they rapidly lose value, and therefore they end up basically benefiting the option sellers other than the option buyers, which is the ordinary public. So this is not a revenue gathering measure, but it is actually like a medicine that is needed to make sure that households are able to use their savings earned in a hard way to be able to maximize their own wealth over the long term rather than losing it in a trade where the deck is loaded against them. And that is what the SEBI paper pointed out. So I would like to sort of conclude my remarks with that observation. So the budget basically has an eye on the long term. It focuses on the key drivers that boost India's long-term competitiveness, ensures strategic resilience, and also therefore paves the foundation for strategic indispensability as a nation in a world that is going to become increasingly fragmented and polarized. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you.
Thank you very much, Chief Economic Advisor, for your remarks, which lays out the other talks to follow and the state of the economy and how the budget has taken those into account. Some very, very critical and important points. We'll open it up to questions soon. And as I request the Secretary, Department of Economic Affairs, Srimati Anuradha Thakur, to kindly address us as she goes up onto the podium, may I also request her to also look at if she could cover about the growth estimates, which we feel is it conservative, or you expect much more than what you said that comes up as we go forward, because the private sector is kicking in a very, very strong way as we see. Also, one of the things that has come out in the budget is the budget maintains a very clear sort of a glide path that one can say while sustaining high capital expenditure. Secretary, how does the government evaluate the trade-off between the fiscal discipline and growth imperatives over the next 2 or 3 years? And as you could get up, Secretary, the third point is for you to just think about is where the state fiscal, one is worried about, the states. So how do you look at that being? Thank you.
Thank you, Sibi, and thank you so much for those questions that I was hearing even as I walked to the podium. Distinguished representatives of industry associations, business leaders, colleagues from the government, friends, and I also must specially mention Dr. Rakesh Mohan, who I saw sitting in the audience here. It's a pleasure to see you here, sir. It's a pleasure to see all of you in such large numbers. Industry associations, as CA mentioned before me, industry itself plays amongst the most vital roles in shaping India's economic narrative and the economic path. The aggregate enterprise level experience that all of you all have in this room, how you flag emerging challenges when you interact with us, and how you partner with us in building a competitive, resilient economy is what really defines how India has grown and how we intend to continue to grow. Today, it would seem like a repetition, but I must repeat it, that the Indian economy continues to demonstrate strong macroeconomic resilience, despite a global environment marked by volatility, fragmented trade, and very rapid technological change. Sound macro fundamentals, calibrated and prudent fiscal management, and a stable financial system have enabled us to sustain growth momentum and manage inflation and external risks. For industry, we believe this stability and credibility are critical. They enable long-term investment decisions and provide a strong foundation to strengthen India's growth trajectory. That is the primary responsibility of government, and we have been trying to keep that path to stay the course. And we remain committed to maintaining fiscal discipline consistently without compromising, as was Dr. Banerjee's first point, on either growth or developmental priorities. In line with the accepted standards of fiscal management, the declining debt to GDP ratio, which is our new marker, from 56.1% last year to 55.6% this year, we intend to stay the glide path as we have committed to doing. This is expected to free up resources for priority sector expenditure by reducing interest outgo, and the fiscal deficit, a key operational instrument for debt targeting, is estimated, as you all know, for the next coming year at 4.3% of GDP. The market borrowing, which is an important thing that a lot of you have noted, for the next year is 17 lakh crores. And as I said yesterday at many points when I was interacting with the media, a lot of this 5.5 lakh crores is for repayment of the previously issued debt of Government of India. And the fresh issuances for financing our fiscal deficit would roughly be 11.7, which is in the range of the kind of borrowing we have been doing in the last few years. On the state fiscal, as Dr. Banerjee mentioned, I must address that as well, that in terms of how the states manage their resources, in terms of the spirit of the Constitution, the states do manage their own and are expected to manage their own resources in a responsible manner as defined by the FRBM Act, under which all of us are covered. The center on its part has introduced, I'm sure my colleague Secretary Expenditure will speak about this in greater detail. I'll just make a mention of the SASCI program that we started a couple of years back, which has been a program to extend 50-year interest-free loans to states, specifically targeted at capital expenditure, to help states navigate their own productivity and how they manage their finances. Other than that, from time to time, particularly the expenditure department engages with the state and has dialogues about how to nudge the states towards ways in which expenditures can be made, revenues can be raised to enhance productivity, eventually leading to growth of the states themselves as well as the country. In this budget, as Dr. Nageswaran has mentioned before me, manufacturing is actually one of the strongest pillars that we have, and in some sense, and also services. And the way it is laid out in the budget, you all would have seen that the period that we are looking at has shifted to the long term now, because all of this medium and long term, all of it will take time to get established. We need your deep engagement with it. We need your full cooperation to make it happen. And if you see the services side, I don't have the list before me, I had made a list. Not only skilling through, there are various means by which we do skilling. One is through short-term programs that the Ministry of Skill Development gets done, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. One is through industry-led training programs on the job. Then there is the internship program, there's an apprenticeship program. Other than that, there are institutions and there are the ITIs, all of which contribute to the training and skilling ecosystem. You would notice that here not only are there such programs embedded even in the manufacturing segment, but there are a whole host of institutions that we hope to set up. In the pharma sector, while we are talking about biopharma, we are also talking about establishing 3 new NIPERs close to where the industry centers are, and also in the 7 existing NIPERs have a dedicated biopharma program, recognizing, based on your feedback, that manpower and skilled and trained manpower is just as important as putting the capital in and getting a plant going. While at pharma, Dr. Nageswaran has emphasized on the strategic nature of this intervention that is there in the budget, I must inform, as has been requested by my colleagues in the pharmaceutical department, that one important part of this is the reason we also place so much emphasis is so that we don't miss the opportunity that is before India on the 70 novel biologics which will become off-patented in the next 10 years. I will share that list with you, Dr. Banerjee. They have given me a breakup that 55 in the next 7 years. Within 55, there are apparently 28, which the term that the pharma department has given is blockbuster drugs, which apparently have huge amount of sales currently, and therefore present an opportunity to Indian industry in this sector, or even those who may not right now be in this sector, to take a foray into this sector for development of biosimilars and take advantage of the opportunity which is there before us. I will again take a cue from what CA said about it not being only the responsibility of the government. So I mean, the way I look at it is that taking forward the economic growth of a country is actually a partnership. So if we have announced a certain support for any sector that we have, and we have identified these sectors with a lot of care and thought in consultation with sector experts and the ministries, it is only when the private sector also partners with us, then the whole program becomes a success. And when that becomes a success, not only the big corporates, but also the MSMEs benefit from it. So I would urge you all that please have a look at the sectors, and I'm sure you have associations dedicated to those sectors already, whether it is chemicals or electronics or textiles. Do start the engagement with your counterpart ministries so that work can start immediately, and while the government process to get approvals, etc. gets going, the industry also starts revving up and the rollout can be much faster. And if you have any concerns relating to that, that can also start getting addressed while we are in the process of rolling out these new programs. Other than that, I would, the second thing I'd like to focus on is the huge push to infrastructure in this budget. And as you would have noticed, the largest infrastructure spending ministry right now is the Ministry of Road Transport. We have tried, so while the budget of the Road Transport Ministry has gone up, so the emphasis and the focus will continue. However, we have also tried to show that for sustainable transport, as was the exact phraseology in the Honorable Finance Minister's budget speech, we have tried to show and try to, I'm looking for the right word, because we are not switching focus, but we are also adding to different modes of transport. So 7 high-speed rails all at once, another DFC after a very long time, which will be from the east to the west in a manner of speaking, inland waterways, 20 national waterways over the next 5 years, and coastal shipping of, the use of the coastal ship line for transportation of cargo. These are equally important triggers for the economy, I would say, as infrastructure normally does. The number of sectors which get activated to contribute to economic growth with the push in infrastructure is just as important, and again, it needs the participation of industry in full measure. And therefore, this talk about investments in the private sector not picking up, first, I am very heartened to see that investment is picking up, and investment is actually picking up in some of those sectors that the government has taken the initiative to support through various schemes. So my hope is that with this long list of very strategic frontier sectors that we have indicated that we would like to support, but we will support you. So I need you to actually come up and be partners in that program that we would like to roll out for the growth of the country as a whole. The one thing that I would spend a little time on before handing over the mic to my colleagues is the focus on MSMEs. And I have to admit that this is one sector that has been in my own zone of attention for a very long time, and it has been drawn a lot from my interactions with CII members. You would remember, Sibi, that once when I was in corporate affairs, you all had called me for a meeting with your, I think you had a annual meeting of all your associations. That's when, in fact, after the formal meet, I had a good interaction with a lot of the associations. And I really marveled at how much innovation and energy there was in the members of those sector associations, a large number of which were medium and even small enterprises. So I really believe that that segment needs to be pushed, which is what has been defined in this budget, that we would like to focus, and now a focused growth fund is being set up for small and medium enterprises, while not taking away the support to micro enterprises in any way. So we will also top up the other fund which will continue to focus on micro and others, and in addition have a separate fund focused on equity support to small and medium enterprises. On the credit side, the ministry is already working on various ongoing schemes as well as new schemes that they would like to bring in separately, so that the credit support can continue and further get boosted. We are in talks with public financial institutions to see if there is a demand for long-tenor term loans, and I would be grateful for feedback on that, that should you feel that long-tenor term loans are required, the dialogue can be taken forward so that that can also be worked out to see how and what kind of industries that can be dedicated to and what is the kind of financing that's needed. The point I'm making is that we are all ears. I would actually like the rest of my time here taking notes from any other suggestion that you have. Taking the lead from what Dr. Nageswaran said, that the budget is presented for us. I would like you all to know the nuances of the budget as I'm presenting it to you today. But policy making continues. We are back in the mode of learning from you, hearing from you, and continuing to work in a way that we can keep taking the ship forward. With that, I would like to thank you all again for coming up in such large numbers, and would be happy to hear from you after all my colleagues speak. Thank you so much.
That was really very, very nice, comprehensive, and covering a lot of spectrum, Secretary. And thank you for that presentation. And I think you've talked about the sectors very strongly, yes, yeah, and we would look forward to many more reforms which would enable even greater participation from the private sector. You've called in for the private sector participation very, very strongly, and I'm sure the response will be enthusiastic as we move along. Secretary, DFS, as I turn to you, I know you will also put challenge a lot onto the private sector. You've always done so, and I think you will see the response. And as I request you, Mr. Nagaraju, for your address, I'd like to really dwell on 3 points as you walk up to the podium, perhaps, is on the capital market. Did we see a lot, or are we going to see a lot capital market deregulation, or is it to the regulator? Or I would imagine there is a lot to the ministry too. And on the banking, the committee and we would really like to understand how much we can expect from it, if there is something that you can share with us today, a day after the budget. And and lastly, of course, the role of NBFCs, and how do you see that revolving? Because that's going to be something which is going to be critical as we see them expand, and the role of NBFCs have been very strong, and how do we give them a greater push as we see investment-led growth in it? Dr. Nagaraju, may I turn to you, Secretary DFS, for your opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chandrit Banerjee, and my colleagues on the dais, all the distinguished participants and the industry leaders. Let me express my gratitude to CII for inviting me again after listening last year, and so there is some appetite. So I would confine to 3 points. I'll respond to what was mentioned. Let me, since there is a chance for me to speak. Now, our Indian banking sector is now very robust, I think all of you know, and very resilient, and we are doing very well. Now, if I can give you some numbers, see, our PCR is now about 94%, provisional coverage ratio, and our net NPA actually declined to 0.47 now, the lowest ever. And our growth was the last month, credit growth is 12%, and the deposit growth was 10%. If I can add some more numbers, agriculture we grew at 10% overall, total scheduled commercial bank. And MSME we grew at 17%, highest rates in the recent past. In fact, we've overtaken the private sector banks, which used to be very, very agile, used to lend heavily. But the public sector banks, we have overtaken them in the last two quarters. Now, coming to the MSMEs, we have outstanding loan credit of 37 lakh crore MSME. Again, we have last 3 quarters we have been doing very well, extending a lot of loans to the MSMEs. Now, we have also launched last year, and this was one of the budget announcements last year, that to introduce a new credit model based on the digital footprints. Okay, and with that we have disbursed, we introduced this in all the public sector banks. We also offered to the private sector, and we have disbursed huge amount of loans to a number of people in the country, and nobody needs to come to the bank for getting a loan for the MSMEs. Now, having given this, banking, the other point I would like to mention is about we have announced one high-level committee, expert committee on the banking for Viksit Bharat 2047. I think all of you know. Now, our credit to GDP ratio is about 56%, one of the lowest in the world, in the countries. And we have between 300 to 350 million people who are not included into the credit excluded adults. And we need to provide credit to this kind of people. They have now currently financial inclusion, but they're not credit inclusion. And we need to bring them to the credit ecosystem so that they'll be able to start micro enterprises, small enterprises, and they have their own livelihoods. For that, the banking system requires capital. Now, the capital can come from outside, also internally can generate it, and we can also go to QIPs, or also can look at the regulatory norms for preservation of the capital. How do you look at it? So there are several aspects to draw the capital to finance more to the industry and individuals. So we are taking a look at it. This committee will look at it. What would be the roadmap? How do we enhance how do we bring more number of people into the credit system? And how do we provide how do we ensure credit is as per requirement, because agriculture, MSME continues to be our focus areas for the government. And how do we encourage banks becoming bigger? Now, the bigger banks are able to, I think all of you know, the bigger banks will be able to take higher risk, lend more, and take up huge and risky projects. Now, none of the banks in India now will be able to do that, because if you look at it, bigger project, corporate houses, if any larger project is there, they actually have a joint lending meeting, and then they 5-6 banks come together to lend maybe 5 to 10,000 crores. We don't have that capacity. We don't have the financial capacity to lend to bigger projects. We need a country of our size and aspirations. We need a bigger banks. I think this committee, the expert committee, we are likely to form shortly. I think we'll have the mandate to come up with a roadmap that will help the government to take a view on this. Now, coming to the NBFCs, now we have two kinds of NBFCs. I think government-owned NBFCs we have. Under the DFS only we have several NBFCs. We finance long-term infrastructure projects and also other things we do. And the private sector NBFCs, in fact, they have been doing very well. I think some of you are associated with financial sector NBFCs. I think you should be very happy to know that their growth rates is very good, and their names are good, and their reach is very good. In fact, we have provided huge capital to NBFC to reach the unreached by the banks, and their profits are very good. I think all of you must be doing that. So they are doing very well. So I don't have NBFC still required. They always have some issues on capital. They want actually some of time. The NBFCs always they want to have the banking powers without being regulated by the bank regulator. So both, I keep telling them, see, you can't have both. Either you want to be NBFC and be regulated as like NBFC, but you can't have the banking features. If you want to be banking feature, you need to be regulated by the RBI. So that dichotomy continues to be there, but we feel that NBFC has a role, a very significant role to support the growth of the country, and we have been holding regular interactions with the NBFC. Large number of issues they have flagged. Last 1.5 years, we have actually most of the issues we have sorted out, and we continue to be in partnership with the NBFC so that our growth story will continue. I wanted to share something which we got it done some time ago, last month in fact. This is about, I have asked one of my companies to do a research for me, small note, half a page, I can't read more than that. So I have asked them to last top 50 NSE listed companies, what is their investment in the country, to see the capex, because the capex, they are actually falling short. In the last 2-3 years, we have been saying that the capex has to be improved, and we have been asking the bigger companies, please invest. I understand the external volatility, but still, I want to give you the number without any moralizing about this. The top 50 firms of NSE in the country, their 19% of net cash was deployed for capex. This is last year, and last 3 years, 22, 23, 24, 25. These last 4 years, 19% was used for deployed for capex, 24% used for debt repayment, and 26% for dividend, and 18% for other investment activities. Now, I will just leave it at that. So the private sector has huge scope as per the data, the huge scope for stepping up for infrastructure development. We have now, most of the state governments as well as the central government have very robust infrastructure policies and the dispute resolution mechanism. Now the country has matured in understanding the risk as well as resolving those risks with a mutually beneficial way. I think private sector has to step up. I hope Mr. Banerjee, with his long experience with the CII, will ensure all his members will step up to the plate and match the government. The government infrastructure push that is one actually keeping the rail on the train on the rail. I think they should match now. Last point, what Mr. Banerjee has asked me was about capital market. I'm not going to touch this because we have 4-5 regulators, all of them trying to regulate the capital market, and that is already too crowded. I think as a government we wanted to stay back and see what they do and then react accordingly with them in the boardrooms. Thank you so much. Let me thank once again CII for inviting me, and to all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Secretary Nagaraj, for that wonderful presentation, clarifying many points. And indeed, your department, the DFS, would be a critical department, and yourself, as we see how we are able to have the financial pipeline for the growth that we all look forward to. And now all our three speakers, all the three of them did touch upon many points about the private sector, about the MSME opportunities, and I think all of you did talk about how we can really get the engagement of them and look at their opportunities. There's a large number of people present here from the sectors, as well as from different sectors of manufacturing, as well as the small and the mid-sized companies especially. Probably it has been of great value, I'm sure, for all of them. And as I move to Dr. Arunish Chawla, Secretary DIPAM, again a person with whom we have been engaged in many avatars, and as you get up to speak, Secretary DIPAM, may I request you to also talk during your discourse about how do you see asset monetization as well as disinvestment, which of course are two important pillars of fiscal strategy, evolving as we move along in the coming years. And would you like to share some of your ideas on the strategic side of the strategic partnership in the context of disinvestment, because we look at, again, that partnership to be important, as was mentioned by our three other secretaries. Over to you, Secretary Dr. Chawla.
Thank you, friends. Very good afternoon. In the interest of time and due respect to the doyens of industry present here in such large numbers, my colleagues on the dais and the leadership of CII, I will not repeat what has been stated earlier, and I will focus on asset management, which is essentially our core job in the Ministry of Finance, and a few concepts, how it has evolved and how we plan to take it forward. These are difficult questions which tingle our mind and of course lead to a very engaging and sometimes divisive discourse. Let me start by first explaining why Department of Disinvestment became DIPAM. And our job is, as per our name, it is to light that hope, that little deep in the lives of ordinary investors. And the reason behind this shift is what is called the Atmanirbhar policy, which was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister in 21-22. And the policy looks at the public and the private sector together in an integrated framework, as my colleagues also said. So essentially what happens is that we divide the entire spectrum of public enterprises into three domains or verticals: the strategic, the exempt, and what is left is not really non-strategic, but it's an area where private sector has done well, has great potential, and should play a greater role. What is strategic is obvious: it's provision of public goods and to ensure security of our supply chains. So strategic sectors by design include natural resources, critical minerals, core infrastructure, defense, which is a public good, financial infrastructure, and the like. The exempt sectors are those which provide not-for-profit services to the vulnerable groups, to the farmers, and exist for playing a social role. What is left is an area where we encourage, and both in the last few years and going forward, the private sector to partake, play greater role. And in these areas, we have actively taken up both strategic disinvestment and closure of public enterprises. Very often when we talk about disinvestment, we forget this composite view. Let me emphasize, both strategic disinvestment and closure are part of two sides of the same coin. And in any macro framework, they both create greater space for the private sector for it to come, partake, and produce efficiently in their interest and in the interest of the larger economy. If you would notice, particularly, a large number of enterprises which were either closed or disinvested are precisely in this domain because they were doing manufacturing, which is now very competitive, efficient in the private sector. And through both the modes, greater space has been created for the private sector in the last 10 years. Going forward, we have adopted what is called a value creation strategy. And this value creation strategy for the CPSEs, where they would remain in strategic areas, rests on 4 pillars: corporate performance, market capitalization, fair dividends, and calibrated disinvestment. Coming to each of those 4 pillars one by one, in terms of corporate performance, once the policy framework and the objective became clear, the last 10 to 12 years, public enterprises, particularly in the strategic and core areas, have rejuvenated themselves. They have rediscovered, they have become more efficient, and as per the latest public enterprise survey, purely in the last 4 to 5 years, their gross turnover has increased at least by 1/3 or 30%. Their profits have increased 50%. And in the last closing year, the public sector enterprises earned a record profit of 3 lakh crores and distributed a record dividend of 1.4 lakh crores. Friends, that is not all. They have created, as you know, what the numbers and the survey numbers are actual performance. Markets are forward-looking. So markets price in what policy indicates or guides for the future. And the market capitalization of CPSEs in the last 12 years has increased from 13 lakh crores to nearly 67 lakh crores, which is 5 times. And the dividends that public enterprises distribute. We follow a very honest, fair dividend policy and ensure it very strictly. All public enterprises are mandated to distribute 30% of their profits or 4% of net worth, whichever is higher, to their shareholders. And with almost 1/3 of our listed enterprises already having come below 60%, a large share of their capital is out there in the hands of minority shareholders. It's there in the markets, it is doing well, and it is doing so well that mutual funds and institutional investors now have dedicated portfolios for the public enterprises, and the market exchanges like the NSE and the BSE have special indices for the public enterprises. During our market research, we were very pleasantly surprised when we found and compared the public enterprises and their dividend policies with the Nifty 50 companies. And if I may use some technical jargon, we found they both first and second order stochastically dominate as far as distribution of dividends is concerned to the shareholders. While the CPSEs account for 15% of the market cap, they distribute as much as 25% of the dividends which were distributed on the markets to minority shareholders last year. My friends, this is a moment to celebrate. This is a moment to celebrate jointness and working together between both and the public sector, and how they are complementary to each other, and how we can work together to achieve our national goals. Third, in terms of the future roadmap, my friend, Chief Economic Advisor is here, and in the economic survey, he and his team have ideated, put forward some nice suggestions, and they have ideated on the way forward in the form of various alternatives. The alternatives that could be considered could include either changing the definition or going down below the statutory 51% limit through various mechanisms like joint frameworks, like frameworks where the entity does not remain a government entity, but it is still public control both directly and indirectly. And also, as a fourth option, strategic partnerships, in which we are putting our heads together. This is policy in evolution, and I would invite the CII and its members to sit with us, participate in this ideation, so that we can take the best and the best considered foot forward. Last, you would have seen a very large target for the next year that has been put on our shoulders. Loosely, people call it a disinvestment target, but now in the language of the budget, it's called capital receipts. The miscellaneous capital receipts target, I was asked again and again yesterday, is very high, and how we are going to achieve it. Let me assure you, the large target indicates our aspiration, our desire, and also our confidence that we have put our house in order. We do not give split up targets between different modes of asset monetization, and the reason is that it creates a price overhang in the market and can be distortive. But this target, the large target, includes conventional disinvestment. It includes various forms of market sales. It includes the traditional land monetization, and it includes the new innovative capital instruments like InvITs and REITs, which help us achieve monetization of assets and redeploy capital to productive ends. As you may have heard, in December we got an approval for public InvITs. This is a landmark achievement, and we hope to make it operational before the end of the current financial year. A public InvIT is a capital market equivalent of risk capital, which helps us monetize the present value of user fee and redeploy it to create productive capital assets for the economy. The Honorable Finance Minister also announced yesterday the launch of REITs for public enterprises, their surplus lands, and a way of monetizing it. In the same vein, we'll be working together with the Department of Economic Affairs to put together a framework where the present value of rental revenues can be monetized to redevelop the surplus lands of public enterprises and put it to good productive use. With these few words, thank you, my friends, for inviting us here, and my best wishes.
Thank you very much, Secretary Dr. Chawla. Thank you for your views, very important insights, and I'm sure the membership and us at CII would look at it from the prism that you really held out to us. Thank you very much for those insights. And as I request and invite our Secretary's Expenditure, Shri Balaram, to be addressing us, may I pose, Secretary, a question for your consideration about the quality of public expenditure, which is phenomenally, I think significantly improved in the recent years. But what changes in the expenditure management have made that biggest difference, as you see? And one question which was very strong out yesterday in this particular venue as we were watching the budget together was about the outcome-based budgeting being strengthened for us to ensure better returns on public spending. Secretary.
Thank you. I start by conveying warm greetings to the President CII, Sri Rajiv Menani, the DG of CII, Sri Chandrajit Banerjee, the entire leadership of the CII, and all the distinguished members of CII who are present here today. Very warm greetings from Ministry of Finance. Greetings to my colleagues who have been really working over the last several months to prepare this budget, and warm greetings to them. Congratulations, and also congratulations to the CII for this book which was placed on our tables. I have glanced through, and I would say that it's a meticulous assessment of the budget that the CII leadership has done, and seeing this document itself, I can say that all of you are at the right place. I will briefly touch on 3 points. The first, I would like to sort of highlight and reiterate the focus of the government on fiscal prudence, on macroeconomic stability, on points like the statement that inflation is moderate. It may not attract the headline, but the importance of it at a time when all around us the volatility, the uncertainties are only expanding. I think I would like to reiterate the importance to have a government that is having the ability to respond to the requirements of the industry, of the country, of the citizens, every sections of society. I think I really would like to highlight that, place it in our consciousness, and it's not just about sort of controlling the numbers, but what the DG mentioned, the quality of expenditure. If you see over the last decade or so, the LPG connections that our fellow citizens have got through the Ujjwala mission, 10 crore is no mean number. 10 crore people have got the LPG connections through the Ujjwala scheme of the government. The PMA housing for the rural 4 crore houses have been constructed. Our expenditure has moved well. The Ayushman health insurance scheme, 11 crore medical treatments through the government health insurance scheme has happened for people who earlier had to just sort of deny or ignore the illnesses which they had, the medical processes which they had. For our rural areas, the PMGSY, the rural roads, in fact last year itself 18,000 kilometers of rural roads could be constructed. So along with the macroeconomic stability, the fiscal prudence, really the outcomes have also been commendable. I think it's something we should all be proud of. The second point which I would like to dwell on is that this budget represents and also reflects the approach of the government, and that is really in front of all of you as representatives of industry and private sector, the approach of a whole of country approach. I think that is what comes through as a theme in this specific budget, but also the approach of the government really in any initiative that is being taken up more than ever before. Even the achievements which, if we look at the infrastructure side or different sectors, it's really the government sector along with all of you representing industry that have worked together to construct the national highways, even the railway lines, the metro projects or any other. So it's a really whole of country kind of an approach. We on our part have also been trying to streamline. We are reminded regularly about a whole of government approach to break down our silos, to make it easier for industry, to make it to reach towards an ease of doing business of a higher level. So now how do we say whole of country approach? If you look at some of the initiatives which were announced in the budget speech, for example, the India Semiconductor Mission 2.0 was announced, and this is preceded by the Semiconductor Mission 1.0, which had a huge outlay, as all of you would know, 76,000 crore of rupees, and it's really something which has gone out for the industry, for the private sector, for the project proponents to avail of, and along with the state governments who have been very proactive to set up factories, to set up units in different parts of our country. So it's really very visible whole of country kind of an approach. The rare earth corridor, which got mentioned again as an initiative in our in the budget speech, was preceded by the rare earth mission, which got approved by the government, and recognizing the importance of permanent rare earth magnets in different parts of modern industry. And again, something where it's really the industry and private sector which will make use of it, which will get the investments. Recognizing that as a country, in fact, we are blessed. In fact, we are the third largest deposit of rare earth in the world, and it's only just bringing the stakeholders and the actors, the governmental agencies together and carrying it forward. So really a whole of country approach. We are blessed and we all work together to make a success of it. Then two more points, for example, we talk of manufacturing, we talk of export promotion, but if you read the budget, two very interesting points are, one is the setting up of the customs integrated system, for example. Some of you would be in the export business. The number of documents that an exporter has to fill up is mind-boggling, and I believe that this item, which is just a sentence in the budget speech, but something which is again a reach out to all the exporters to support the export business, or the related item, the digital portal for cargo clearance by the food safety, the plant quarantine, animal quarantine, the wildlife clearances. So again, for those of you in the export business, something which really has lots of steps and procedures. I think the intention to bring that all into one digital portal with a measurable kind of process, I think these are all really, again, coming back to the theme that it's a real whole of country kind of an approach, and exporter is assisted, the governmental agencies are assisted, and we all work together to bring in efficiencies in our system to make ourselves competitive, to make ourselves efficient. I would like to get to the third point and the last point, and that is really sort of the Department of Expenditure, which I head. For some of you, it may be a question that what does Department of Expenditure have with the industry, with the CII? I would like to just mention that this is the department where we appraise the various schemes which the government takes up. So even if you read the current year's budget, you will find lots of schemes are there. It is in the Department of Expenditure that we appraise them, examine them before it goes to the level of the Union Cabinet to, for them to take a decision. And I would like to reassure that more than ever, when we appraise the schemes, when we look at the schemes, when we look at how it is formulated, does it help in the ease of living for the beneficiaries in the rural areas, in the hinterland, or if it's for industry, if it's for private sector, or if it's for for the MSMEs, etc., does it ease in the doing business, ease of doing business? So really those are our focus when we look at the schemes, the project proposals that come to us in the Department of Expenditure, and I'm extremely glad to be here in front of all of you. And the efforts, I think, coming to the question which DG Saab has raised, I think the quality of public expenditure has improved. In fact, we publish nowadays what we call the output and outcome monitoring framework. We are conscious that expenditure should be linked to measurable outputs and also measurable outcomes. It's not an easy task, but the government is clear from the highest level that whatever we invest should have measurable outputs and measurable outcomes, and together again in a whole of country kind of approach, we are confident this will lead us towards the Viksit Bharat, which is really something we all aspire together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary for Expenditure. Thank you for that presentation, and thank you for mentioning some very critical parts about the futuristic focus on the budget, and also about the types of efforts taken in terms of enhancing the competitiveness of our industry globally. And you also talked about the way your department's involvement with industry, which is also very, very important for us to be reminded once in a while, because that helps us relate. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have some time for this session before we enter into the other very, very important session, which is the bread and butter session, so to say, the taxation session. And before we do so, I'll turn to Rajiv Memani, the President of CII, and from the perspective of holding up the views, thoughts, questions, observations from what this phenomenal panel of our secretaries mentioned just now. What could be some takeaways, some thoughts, as well as if there is a question or two for the entire panel to focus on behalf of our membership, that would really help us to take this session forward. Rajiv, may I request you? Yeah.
Thanks a lot, CV. Thanks to the CEA. Thanks to all the secretaries present, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot even envy your role. I mean, when whatever document is written is analyzed and scrutinized by hundreds of millions with their own points of view, it's never easy. But my compliments for really putting together an outstanding budget. Thank you very much. And what I really liked was the macroeconomic discipline that has been maintained, and the sharp prioritization, whether it's in manufacturing, infra, and as you rightly mentioned, ma'am, the focus on building ecosystems and skills. I think that's been very, very, very useful. In a lot of the initiatives that you have announced, I think there are lots of policy pronouncements that have to happen by the respective ministries. I think at CII we'll be engaging a lot, but I think the faster the policy pronouncements can come, I think the faster the impact will be. You talked a lot about the focus on SMEs, and I think that's something at CII, given our membership, something we focus a lot on. And I think your thought, apart from what has already been provided, which is really very helpful, on long-term loans is really useful. I think after DFIs have gone away, the risk-taking ability is a bit of a challenge. So whatever government can do, whether it's in long-term loans, equity support, personal guarantees that are asked for, I think that will really unleash the risk-taking capability in MSME. So I think this is really a very, very useful idea. What I really found unique was fulfilling aspirations and building capacity. I think that was a unique chapter. And whether you talked about design or the orange area, I think that's really compliment you on that. And the policy and tax nudges that you did to encourage, whether it was nuclear power, rare earth, data centers, these are where I think private sector investment will come in a big way. You haven't spent much, but you've given the policy thrust, and private sector investment will come in a big way. I just want to respond to Mr. Nagaraju. I did a similar analysis as he did, which was done by, not by me, but by ICICI, their research team, ISEC. And as of March 25 for the last year, if you look at all listed companies, the aggregate investments made by listed companies in last 1 year was about 11 trillion rupees, which was 20% addition to capex. So I do think that there is much greater potential to do. I don't think there's any disagreement. I think a lot of new areas have opened, which I think in the budget policy pronouncement is there. But I do believe that the narrative that private investment is not happening actually is happening. And I think we should encourage private sector. I don't think people should step back and think, oh, why is it not happening? I think we should really be focusing on, because it is happening, on how we can do more. I think a lot has been given on states, sir. I think the total amount of money that has been given to states, and I have just one question, and I'm leaning on the economic survey here, where building of the state institutional capacity is so important. I think you have allocated almost 5 lakh crores on grant in aid, capital assets and everything else. I know it includes a little bit of Jal Jeevan, a little bit of VB Gram G also in that. But last year, if I look, the biggest shortfall in the budget was in this head. And this year, if I look at it, the biggest increment. So when I say shortfall, I'm saying BE to RE. If I look at this year, the largest increment that we are looking at is in this head. So if you have to really get the full bang of the budget, and given the fact that the state finances will be under pressure, are under pressure, and partly because the GST collection that we have said is conservative, which is almost 50% of the revenue of states, I think if we can get this operationalized, I think in a way that where states are there, and you mentioned about that, I think that will be very helpful. The other thing which we are hearing a little bit from the markets and others is, and as we talk to some of the global investors, for 10% nominal GDP growth, fiscal deficit improvement is roughly about 0.1%. And debt to GDP is improved by 0.5%. I think most people feel that maybe, is there a reason? So we have held the line on capex, which I think is very, very encouraging, particularly for everyone who's sitting in this room and for India. Is on tax buoyancy ratio. I know we have taken 0.8 as that, which is probably amongst the lowest if I have to look at last 10 years. And I know that, as again I'm leaning on the economic survey on buffers, what's happening in the global geopolitical world, and we need to build that. But that would be one area where I would be good to get your comments on that. And the third thing, again leaning on what the markets are saying, industry is saying, this very innovative thing that you've started on personal residents outside India, PIS. People are not sure whether it includes only person of Indian origin, or even tomorrow if Mr. Bill Gates wants to invest in State Bank of India, will he be able to do that? Is it part of the existing PIS scheme, or you'll be creating a new scheme? And if you are looking at foreign citizens, I think the only request would be to make the tax compliance easy, because there is a lot of interest that is there amongst people to invest in the Indian markets. This opens a completely new window for investment in that. And I think the faster we can come out with the policy on that, I think that will be very, very, very helpful. So I'll pause here, CB. I'll try to keep it as
No, thanks, Rajiv. Thanks for really summing it up on the key takeaways, and also putting up some very important thoughts on behalf of industry. But there was a huge reference by many of our secretaries while speaking about the role of the private sector, role of manufacturing, the role of the SMEs. So I'll take one question from the floor from Shrikant Somani, who is, Mr. Somani has headed and chaired the CII's Small and Mid-sized Company Council, and has also chaired many other councils, including the North Region, and has been, of course, champion of many of the sectors. So one question, because we'll run out of time otherwise. Yes, Shrikant. Shrikant, please.
This is for the CA, Mr. Nageshwaran. The budget proposes a creation of a cadre, the corporate mitras for the MSMEs. Can we have a little more details on the fact that how would you outline the proposed institutional framework, including accreditation, governance and rollout strategy? Additionally, how does the government envisage ensuring quality, affordability and widespread access so that the MSMEs across the regions are able to benefit from this initiative, which is really very nice. I mean, we've been always thinking about something of this kind, but to bring it in the budget was really refreshing. How can CII assist the government in taking this role?
We'll open it up to the panel for their comments. Yes, please, with this.
No, I just wanted to say
yes,
that
please, yes.
my colleague Anuradha has very graciously offered to take me off the firing line.
No, so this is a proposal that we had been discussing in the Ministry of Corporate Affairs for a while, because the 3 professional institutions interact with the Corporate Affairs Ministry. And so this is going to be rolled out from the MCA. And the ICAI, the ICSI, and the ICMAI have already worked with the ministry to come out with shorter courses, as well as more hands-on courses from the Chartered Accountancy Company Secretaryship base formats and the base modules, slightly shorter and tighter courses which can speak to the MSMEs. Apart from that, I think it also emanated from the fact that a lot of the kids who enroll in these courses don't complete it. And although a certificate is now given to those courses, the kids who don't complete the full Chartered Accountancy course or the full Company Secretary course, the thought process was that those kids are still failures. So instead of that, there will be a course which will be midway, but you will get that certificate as somebody who's passed that up to that level, but it will be of a level that will address the compliances required of small and medium enterprises. Therefore, the cost affordability and therefore the availability in tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, all kinds of places. And the rollout will probably take another 4 to 6 months. But the reason I took the mic was to tell you that it's something the Corporate Affairs Ministry has been very actively engaged with all 3 PIs, and it should be coming out quite soon. So it will be very helpful if CII can also reach out to MCA and discuss the ways in which, so if it is being designed, it should have the inputs of industry as well. So that would be great, actually.
Right. Thank you very much. CA, any quick comment from your side? Right. I'll turn to Secretary Nagaraju, DFS. You want to respond to?
The MSME, what was announced in the budget. Now, I think all of you know that we have about 4.5 crore MSMEs in the country, and large number are micro. Okay, 90% are micro units, and some are major MSME thing. We want to graduate many of the well-functioning MSMEs into major industries. That's one. The second is we also want to improve, provide enabling ecosystem so that they'll be able to produce goods and export to the outside world, outside India. And for that, in case if they require either debt, equity, or technology, or any other thing, we are going to provide from this fund. This fund, I think all of you know, in the MSME area, we have currently almost about 7-8 funds under the CGTMSE, which DFS runs. For different purposes, we have specific focused funding from the bank we fund, and we also provide the guarantee. So this is going to be enable some of the MSMEs to become world-class MSMEs, like we have seen in Korea and Germany, where government has always supported them to become world-class MSME. Now Government of India also decided that now time has come, we should also support our MSME. That's the idea. We will be drawing up the rules and of course the guidelines and all those things. At that point of time, we will consult the industry. We work, DFS works with a large number of MSME associations. Every week at least I meet one association, MSME relating to some specific. We work with MSMEs and then finalize the guidelines.
Thank you. Secretary Expenditure or Secretary DIPAM, any closing comments or response from your side, Secretary Expenditure?
Really just on the point about 2 schemes which were mentioned, it's more about sort of strengthening the implementation at the ground. For instance, Jal Jeevan Mission is a very valuable scheme that we have, and if I were to explain it this way, that when people talk of Jal Jeevan Mission, We call it Har Ghar Nal, that means a tap in every house, but we also talk of Har Ghar Jal, that means the water in every house. So let me say it this way, that whatever little bit slowing down we have seen is an attempt to link up between the tap which has come and also the water which has come, and we are fully supportive, and it will happen in the coming months, and it will be implemented in full gusto in the coming months. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know there are several questions and people wanting to put up their hands, but we have a constraint on the time of our secretaries who would need to leave. We really run out of their offices, I'm sure, to steal time to be with us. Very, very grateful and honored that you could spare this time. We'll continue with those interactions and several discussions that we will follow up with you. Yes, please, Secretary Dipam.
I just want to congratulate the CII for coming up this beautiful document in record time. Well done.
Thank you, Dr. Chawla. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, that document shall be made available to each one of you. It's just the printing time, which will be, I'm sure, over by the time this program finishes. Thank you very much once again, Secretaries. Rajiv, you were trying to go towards the mic, is that right? Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Can we hold up your document?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
I'm using the document.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I was having another talk about
We will be starting the next session very soon. May I request everyone to remain seated, please. Thank you. I request everyone to kindly take your seats. Detailed tax provision and analysis. I request everyone to please take your seats. It's going to be a very interactive and engaging session. Pankaj Jindal, Joint Secretary, TPLI CBDT. Shri Pitambar Das, Joint Secretary, TPL2 CBDT. Shri Anupam Prakash, Joint Secretary, Customs, CBIC. Shri J.S. Kandhari, Joint Secretary, TRU CBIC. Shri Prasenjit Singh, Member Legislation, CBDT. Shri Surjit Bhujbal, Member Customs, CBIC. Shri Vivek Chaturvedi, Chairman, CBIC. Mr. Rajiv Memani, President, CII. Mr. Pirus Kambata, Chairman, CII National Committee on Taxation and Group Chairman, Rasna Private Limited. And Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General, CII. Thank you all for joining us here today. I now request Mr. Chandrajit Banerjee to take the session forward. Thank you.
Welcome back, members in the room, and very, very special, warm welcome to our dignitaries on the dais. We will have the Secretary Revenue joining us very shortly and soon, but it's a great, great privilege to welcome Chairman CBIC, Member Customs CBIC, Member Legislation CBDT, the JSS, the Joint Secretary CBIC, so Joint Secretary Customs, the Joint Secretary TPL1 CBDT, Joint Secretary TPL2 CBDT. This is a phenomenal bread and butter panel for our membership, and it's a delight and an honor to have this wonderful panel of experts, the wonderful panel of our policymakers, phenomenal team which really has given us such a great section, part B of the budget, which has given us many, many reasons to celebrate, as we will first hear from you and then respond. we do congratulate you and we do warmly thank you for not your time today, but going so much into the details of what the industry has been engaging with you in what it desired to see in the budget. Much of it has been responded to you in various ways. We're keeping your hat of policy making in your mind. So once again, thank you very much, and indeed a warm applause to from all of you, ladies and gentlemen, in thanking this warm team. And thanks, we have our taxation from the industry experts also present here, the leadership of CII's taxation experts, which includes, of course, Uday and Garima. They have been very, very strongly involved. Uday, thanks always for leading the taxation. Where is Uday gone? There he is, for leading. And of course, we have here Pirus, who heads Pirus Kambata. He has the CII's taxation panel of, and Rajiv will shortly join us. So I'll sort of stop there, because there are so many things for me to welcome, which I was talking about for long yesterday and in the previous panels, and I'll try and see if we can squeeze in a little bit more time for our members to interact with. But straight, if I can go for remarks and turn to some of the experts present here, start with the Joint Secretaries, and Joint Secretary Shri Pankaj Jindal, if I may request you for first for some opening comments from your side before we go into a Q&A format. Yep, it's working.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, and you have already given a lot of introduction, and I believe most of the members know, because FM she gave speech, and then speech is very intently listened, and then most of the things which are in budget. So largely, I believe it's a intelligent audience, so you would be aware of. But then again, broadly to put it, our approach and what we have tried to achieve. So if you see it in a series, like July 24 budget, then February 25 budget, then the Income Tax Act, New Income Tax Act, and then this budget. So we have been trying continuously to give lot of certainty to taxpayers, whether they are resident, whether they are non-resident. So non-resident, number of businesses, cruise shipping, raw diamond, electronic manufacturing. So it's in a series we have been trying to give certainty to them, and this budget also, it continues in that fashion. So we have tried to give in certainty for data centers, AI data cities, so that they are enabled. India is on the cusp of it could be a big economic upward kind of revolution. You can say it's a strong word, but then it could be that. So AI data cities, data center infrastructure, so that there are proposals in our budget document that for till 2047 a foreign company, if he takes data center services from India and then gives it globally and even to Indian customers, so that foreign company would not be taxed. And there are certain conditions to that also. And then if you see for toll manufacturing in a custom bonded zone, again we have given 5-year exemption to toll manufacturing to the foreign company, which gives capital equipment and tooling and other things to the resident company in a bonded zone. For contract manufacturing, we have tried to give certainty where a foreign company, GVC lead firm or any of component vendors, they maintain a component warehousing in India. So on that also we have tried to give a tax regime which would be much more favorable than many of the East Asian economies. So these are some of the issues which we have tried to address for the non-residents. And for residents also, so on taxation for companies, there was old regime and then new regime. We have tried to sort that out through a scheme which will enable companies to shift in a very smooth fashion to the new regime. So that is one. And then again on number of fronts which my colleague Pitambar will go into in detail, that how we have tried to give certainty to taxpayers, where for one thing or the other a litigation is started between the department and the taxpayer. So we want that litigation to come to an end. So that he will explain in detail. So my point is that lot of things like expats also we have given 5-year exemption. Somebody comes from outside and gives services in India. So a number of steps they are there, and I believe it will. It is we have worked hard. That is our duty. There is nothing so great in it. But my point is that if the industry, we in a series of steps we are trying to bring certainty, clarity, minimize litigation on so many fronts we are working, and we hope that the industry will take it in a very positive spirit. So with that.
Thank you very much, Pankaj, for those important opening comments, and really there is so much of clarity. There is a lot of one could say that bringing down the possibilities of litigation, and also, of course, sir, you talked about certainty. I'll move to Shri Pitambar Das, the Joint Secretary, TPL2 CBDT, for his opening remarks, please.
Very good afternoon to all of you, especially the CII. It's a great opportunity to be here. Mr. Banerjee and Nemani was kind enough to invite all of us to address some of the important policy decisions that the government has taken this year. If you see the entire budget proposal as far as direct tax is concerned, I would say that the whole of the tax proposal can be grouped into tax certainty, managing or reducing litigation, and reducing compliances for the taxpayer, apart from improving some of the tax administration measures. So already my colleague has already touched upon on some of the important tax certainty that we have given to the businesses, especially foreign companies. Now I'll just shift that focus to how litigation has been a talking point as far as the tax administration is concerned. You can always, there is a debate of how many appeals are pending, disposal is slow, so all these things are going on for quite a number of years now. So the idea is to how to actually address this issue at a very policy level, not just a knee-jerk reaction, how to resolve this as and when it comes, but on a long-term policy perspective, how to resolve this issue as a primary challenge, because that is how we feel that is the most important aspect of taxpayer when he interacts with the department. So if you see this proposal, I'll just highlight few of them. You know that updated return facility has been brought in. So now 4 years from the end of the financial year, you can update your return, regardless whether there is an original return filed or not. We tried to, there was some limitation like loss cases. Assessee want to reduce the losses also, there was a difficulty whether, and then whether this process can be extended further. So that the idea is that at every stage, the assessee should have an opportunity to settle by himself without confronting with the tax administration. So that is the whole idea. So you can see that even where a reassessment proceeding has been initiated, now the updated return can be filed and declared whatever income that can be done with appropriate taxes paid. So that is a very quantum jump if you see that number of litigations are expected to be reduced at the assessee's level itself. So like that, second, what we observe that the proceedings are now taking a lot of time, like assessment proceeding, then when it comes closure, then probably the penalty proceeding goes on. So a particular taxpayer, on an average, I think the assessee is getting involved in the litigation for more than 7-8 years, put together assessment and penalty. So the idea was how to minimize this kind of exposure of taxpayer with the department for a longer period of time. So basically this year we wanted to club those two proceedings without any additional damage to the taxpayer. That assessment and the penalty proceeding can be completed at one go, so that the taxpayer is certain that, okay, this is my liability on both the fronts, and then from there actually he wants to settle the disputes at one go. Suppose your quantum addition is deleted, then penalty also goes. But by making that combined order, actually the time spent in the litigation would be substantially reduced, and that we hope that will be taken well by the taxpayer and industry. Third thing that you know, in our penalty proceeding, it is a very, one of the most difficult process that taxpayer goes here with the income tax department. So we want to give a relief or immunity from penalty and subsequent prosecution that we have limitedly extended to only on underreporting cases earlier. This year we wanted to extend it to even the misreporting cases, but with an additional amount of taxes has to be paid for that. So therefore, the idea, if you see that in every stage there is a scope that the litigation can be reduced. The most significant part I would, from my experience when I was a CIT appeal, I could see that when a search related assessment for a third party is actually a bit hurts, in the sense that you say that even if there is 1 year issue, the third party on which the search has not been conducted, but he is affected by the document that is found during the search, he also goes to the same rigor like a search does for 6-7 years. So now we want to restrict that if your incriminating material or that is related to only 1 year, then your block would be only restricted to that year. So that will make big relief for the third party who are actually not involved in a search, but because of some documentation there. So these are some of the important things that has been one of the most significant, I can tell, the decriminalization. This is the first time that a policy level we want to decriminalize some of the offenses. And whether we are not 2 or 3 technical prosecutions have been completely, in 2 cases we have fully decriminalized. Many cases the quantum has been reduced from 7 years at the top to 2 years. Then some of the small offenses are now converted into fine also. And then rigorous something it is very deterrence. It looks like very, and the prima facie it is very difficult. So that also we reduce that tone to simple imprisonment. So there is a conscious effort in the government that even a subject like prosecution also has to be attended at a policy level. That we have tried to do it. So this is how we have now in the course. And one more significant thing I can say, that when Black Money Act came in 2015, there are issues, difficulties for the genuine taxpayer also, that we felt that how, and some might have just for example the students, the professionals moving here and there, then your returning NRIs. So these are actually some of the cases it found to be very, these provisions non-disclosing your asset, which might have suffered taxes, or we fully explained in foreign country, but still forgot to disclose, that actually gone through a very rigorous process of penalty and then prosecution. So that one scheme we have brought in for the small taxpayers, that you must be aware now, that at least we give a window that we settle it down. So everywhere the government has been very conscious about how to reduce unnecessary litigation at the level of the taxpayer itself. So with that, I think we'll go more into details when discussion takes place. So I'll pass this mic to sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sridas. Actually, that gives us the overview on this direct taxes, and during the pre-budget discussions, the main focus of ours have been on how we simplify, how do we reduce the penal provisions, how do we really work on ease of paying taxes, so to say, and we heard from few of our JSS how that has been very well addressed, and there are much more to go in terms of questions. But one of the things that we've also moved on is in the area of manufacturing competitiveness and our global linkages. And when we look at global value chains and when we look at our trade facilitation, there's a lot that has been also done in the budget. And I'll turn to JS Anupam Prakash, JS Customs of the CBIC, for him to quickly take us through about some of the important issues that you would like to highlight in the as your opening comments.
Thank you. So you may be aware about the customs reforms which are part of this year's budget announcements. So if you see the budget speech of Honorable Finance Minister, the focus and the idea has been to give trust to our taxpayer so that there is no dispute. And second is to improve transparency and efficiency. So we should take measures which lead to transparency and efficiency. So it is on the one hand, the tax amount and the tax dispute should be less. On the second hand, the process of collection tax is smooth and efficient so that there is no pinch while paying tax. So on the trust aspect, if you see, the primary thing which we have done is to increase the time frame which is available for existing trusted entities. So trusted entities which are presently doing transaction of more than 1/3 of import cargo, AEO, T2 and T3, the time frame has been increased from 15 days to 30 days. So that what it means is that only monthly once they have to pay taxes, that is the due date. And second, to enhance this tax-based system, we have created additional category. We have termed it as eligible manufacturer importer, and detailed guideline for this type of category will issue within this month. So that is one main focus on trust through our existing framework of AEO. Second, if you see the budget proposal, we have proposed one amendment in section 28(6). What it says is that the penalty, there is a dispute settlement mechanism in this section, and the proceedings are concluded if the tax amount, interest and penalty is paid. So we had feedback that because of the term penalty and negative connotation attached with the term penalty, people are not coming and pay taxes. So we have tried to remove this negative connotation, and what we have said is if the amount is paid, it will no longer be called penalty. So that is the proposal in the finance bill. It will see through the parliament, and then the operation will happen. Third thing which we have done to increase trust and bring certainty in businesses is increase the time limit for the advance ruling authorities. So presently ruling are for 3 years. The longer period of certainty is now made available, that is 5 years, through this amendment. The process part, that is at the import side and export side, we have tried to automate, and we have issued instruction also yesterday in this connection. What will happen is for the trusted entities, for example AEO, T2 and T3 at present, they will not go online and register their goods for customs intimation of arrival of their goods. It will be automatically done at the back end. And similarly, if there is no compliance requirement from these entities, the automatic clearance from custom will be given. In fact, customs automatic clearance will be given to all importers where there is no compliance requirement after goods registration is there. On the export cycle, what we have done is that if the cargo is factory stuffed, e-sealed, then on the basis of e-seal reader ecosystem, we can give auto registration at the export side, and similarly auto let export order to such export consignment. Auto let export order again is available to all type of exporters, and auto registration at the side of export is available to those exporters who are using e-seal facility, because that we have data to integrate them automatically. Third thing what we have done is to enhance the export opportunities for the fishery sector. There is a new provision, if you have seen, a new section in the Customs Act 56A. The fish catch beyond territorial water, at present they are treated as import by the definition in the Customs Act. So what we have done through this amendment is that beyond territorial water, if fish catch is done by Indian flag shipping vessel, fishing vessels, they are not treated as import and there is no duty liability on such catch. Similarly, if they catch fish beyond the territorial water, maybe in EEZ or high seas, they can directly ship those consignment to foreign ports and we will give export treatment. We will issue rules in this connection once the amendment is passed through Parliament. For increasing transparency and efficiency, what we have done is, we have issued instruction again. You are aware that import side there are so many NOCs required, and similarly for the export side also there are some licensing and health certification and different type of compliance required depending on the destination country or depending on the requirement of policy. So have a single touch point. We have been working for single touch point automated system in customs. It's called SWIFT 1. Now we have gone for SWIFT 2. We have issued instruction that essentially 5 agencies which are involved in food, drugs, wildlife, they contribute around 70% of the interdicted cargo at the time of import. We will automate them within this financial year, that is by March this year. For all the rest agencies, we will complete the process of automation and electronic processing through single touch point by the end of 26-27 financial year. So this single touch point will reduce the compliance burden of importer and exporter. At single point, they will interact with any department. They will resolve all queries if any department is raising, and they will have complete repository of their previous history, previous clearances, previous licenses, validity, and so on and so forth. So this will be a trade facilitative measure and portal for the importer and exporter. We are also trying to build our own IT infrastructure. So within 2 years, we will have a composite unified infrastructure, IT infrastructure, where we will be processing all such type of process efficiencies, process requirement and workflows of the customs. This IT, integrated IT will be interacting with all government departments, whether it's RBI, GSTN or internal facing application to give the export benefit. So DGFT, Commerce, all EPCs. So every government department will be interacting through this consolidated IT infrastructure. For warehousing, we are trying to automate the processes. We are building trust on the warehouse operator, and on the basis of trust, we'll give more power to warehouse keepers, and the system will be automated in due course. For the MSME sector, which they want to leverage, which were small MSME want to export some small cargo, and they have big potential. So the value limit, if it is coming in their way to export their large consignment, the value limit has been removed. So 10 lakh cap was existing earlier. Through some regulatory changes, this cap will be removed. For the citizens, we have also rationalized and revised our baggage rules. We have new baggage rules in place now, operating from today. So essentially, the key feature, only one or two I will highlight. The free baggage allowance has been revised upward from 50,000 to 75,000. Some transfer of residence concession were available earlier to resident and person of Indian origin. Now it has been extended to foreign resident also, which are here for long-term visa, for professional or work requirement. And the consolidation of earlier instruction, all instruction related to baggage have been done through new circular. So with these, I think this is the overview, and I will be interacting more in the individual question later in the session. Thank you.
Thank you, J.S. Prakash. The focus, as we have seen, has been so much on transparency, on automation, on trust and practicality, digitization, all really helping and helping our exporters, large as well as small. So such a wonderful exposition by all of you. And now I turn to JSTRU. I didn't mention particularly JSTRU when I was opening up in my welcome, but a very strong welcome to JSTRU, Mr. Khanduri Saab, because again, we talk about tax stability, we talk about, which is so crucial for our business planning, we talk about the evolution of tax rationalization. So look forward to your opening remarks on the direction in which we are going in terms of reducing, again, complexities and compliances.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee, for giving me the floor. I would also like to thank CII for giving me this opportunity to address this gathering and to have this interactive session with you all. My colleague and senior, Mr. Anupam, has explained the process side reforms that we've taken on the customs side. My portfolio in CBIC deals with the rate structure. So I deal with anything that relates to the rates on goods, and that could be customs, central excise, or the GST. When I come to the budget proposal this year, our focus on the rate side has been broadly on two major initiatives. First is simplification, and the other is sector specific, where we go into sector specific changes. When I come to the first category, which is simplification, if you see the last few budgets that we've had, we have gone towards a direction that it becomes easy for the trade and industry to follow custom rate structure. We have reduced the number of rate slabs in the customs tariff. We have also taken a call that any particular commodity will not attract more than one cess or surcharge. And this year, what we are focusing on is that the trade and industry doesn't have to look at multiple sources to know what rate of duty applies to them. So, as a simplification measure, what we've done is that we've taken various notifications that were there, and we've seen where the rate of duties were coming through the notifications, and we've examined whether we can take that to the tariff itself. What that means is the notifications will no longer apply for those goods. These rates will now flow from the customs tariff. So the trade and industry only has to see at one source, which is the tariff, and they can come to know what is the rate applicable. Unless, of course, there were some notifications which were so complicated and they could not be taken to the tariff, they will remain. And on the sector-specific side, you have all gone through Madam FM's speech, and we have had various proposals ranging from renewable energy to aircraft manufacturing to labor-intensive exports. I can list out all details, but then I don't want to keep Mr. Banerjee standing for so long. No. And I also don't want to eat into the talking points of my seniors. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Khanduri Sahab, for that brief but yet very strong assurance about the way we have been moving in terms of our different sectors, and we'll come back with more questions. So now I'll move to our members and start with member legislation CBDT, and request Shri Prashanjit Singh to give his special address, not because Mr. Khanduri asked me to sit, but I'd like you to come up to the podium.
Namaskar. First of all, at the very outset, I would like to thank CIE for inviting myself and my colleagues to this very important session. I will give you a broader perspective of the entire approach of the direct tax proposals. And because this year, if you have seen that a wide range of its proposals have been included in the budget 2026-27. And this is in line with the Honorable FM's vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vishwas, Sabka Vikas. So if you see the entire provisions which have been included in this budget are related to a lot of reforms, and reforms touching each and every aspect of the society and the economy. It is, if I will just broadly like to, in 3 or 4 categories, I would like to say, that is as trust-based governance, and enhanced payer services, litigation management, reduction in compliance, and providing more clarity and certainty. So if this is a broad approach and the principles which have been followed in bringing all these reforms. So I will just give you an overview that with the Honorable FM had started her speech with the first thing, that the Income Tax Act 2025, which will be enabled from 1/4/26, and the rules and the forms which will enable the implementation of this act will also be notified soon. So as a government's vision of Sabka Saath, and in that practice, a new practice is being going to started, that all the rules and the forms which have been framed and which have been drafted and which is proposed to be notified will be put in the public domain. So just to give an idea of the rules and forms, that how this becomes important, because ultimately the rules and the forms which implement the act. And a lot of hard work has gone into framing of the rules and especially the forms, because the forms is the ultimate the users are using because the various stakeholders will be using the forms. And the overall approach was making it simplification, removal of the redundancy and omission of making it smart forms. So if you will, which will give an enhanced user experience to the users. And with auto-population, the forms will be talking to each other. The single source of data has been envisaged. So in the nutshell, what will happen is when the taxpayers, the stakeholders, which includes the reporting agencies, entities, the taxpayers, the common citizens, the auditors, all will be having an enhanced experience, because a lot of things will be auto-filled and they need to only validate it. So this is again a step forward towards a high level of user experience and a reduction in compliance. Coming to stakeholders consultation will be called for, and after including the consultation, the forms will be notified very soon. One of the major features which one of my colleagues, Pitambar, had already pointed out, that about the decriminalization and the rationalization of penalties. The whole approach has been that the trust-based governance and a very old systems of the prosecution proceedings, which had rigorous implements of for 7 years, and so all has been done away with. And it has been now a upgraded approach has been taken of deciding the criminalizations or the prosecutions depending on the extent of the I would like to say that I'm not getting the right word, of compliance is not being followed. So there has been the approach, and even if you have seen that from some of the provisions have been decriminalized also, and they have been removed also totally. And the same philosophy has been followed, and the same principles have been followed when we talk about the penalties also. And some of the penalties which was of technical natures, procedural natures, they have been converted into fees, the amounts have been reduced, and even the option of waiver of the penalty has also been given in certain provisions also. So all this, if we include all this, will be resulting in not only in the reduction in the compliance, but also in the reduction in litigation also. And the whole idea is that with this approach, even the word penalty, which the industries also feel that they are okay with, if they have made some mistakes unknowingly, inadvertently, they would like to pay a fees, but keeping it as a penalty, then there are a lot of compliance burdens starts coming, and their reporting things starts coming up, which is viewed regularly by the various regulatory authorities. So all these things have been kept in mind. And also another provision which was felt, because a wide stakeholders consultation has been done, and it was felt that this BMA, that is the Black Money Act, a lot of small taxpayers who have inadvertently missed out the compliances, which includes the students, which include the tech professionals who have got ESOPs, or the NRIs who have returned back to the country, or the professionals who have worked as on deputation, all have missed out on reporting on this when the window was opened when this act was implemented about 9 years back. And now they were suffering because of the prosecution and the penalty proceedings were there. So that's why this time it is this disclosure scheme has been envisaged and will be rolled out. It will be known as FAST. The short name was FAST, but it was in the newspaper reported also fast but not furious. So it will be enhancing the experience and giving a window to the honest taxpayers. And again, coming to depending on some of the provisions which have been included, that is automatic approval of the TDS certificate, of the lower deduction certificate or no deduction certificates, that has also been envisaged. So again, this is another aspect and where it is trust-based governance. Same is in the case of Safe Harbor also. My colleague Pankaj has spoken in detail about it. So even in the case of Safe Harbor also, it is automatic grant of the exemptions and the certainty after fulfilling these specified conditions. And even to the small extent, if you must have noticed that it was found and it was that the motor vehicles accident when it takes place and when the compensation takes a lot of time, and it is a very stressful and unfortunate incident has taken place, but there was two provisions which was, it was taxable. The interest which was paid on the enhanced compensation was taxable, and TDS was deducted. And in a lot of cases, the families have already suffered. So it has been done away with. Even the interest income has been done away. It has been made exempted, and the TDS has also been done away with it. And same for giving a better experience for the non-residents. The TAN provisions have been done away with when they want to sell the property. There is a lot of problems in getting because this purchaser who is in a resident, he has to obtain for a PAN, which becomes a hassle, and even the non-residents find it difficult to get a suitable buyer also. And another one factor which the CI will be having a very interesting, a very important aspect will be a lot of change has been made in the Form 3 CD. And because that is the audit and most of the mismatches and the grievances and the litigation was due to the mismatches which was happening in Form 3 CD, which is a part of the audit report and the ITRs. So the ITRs and the CPC and the Form 3 CD have been aligned, and which will drastically reduce the grievances also, and even the compliance burden also. And of course, another one factor that is about the 10% tax which was to be paid if you are going for an appeal has been from 20, it has been reduced to 10%, again giving taxpayers a relief of a blocking of their funds. And this is and gives an overall approach which the government has taken towards bringing the tax proposals in this budget. Thank you. Thanks, Jai.
Thank you so much, Shri Singh, for very in a detailed manner in a short period of time, giving us that overview of, again, assurances of less government, so to say, and more governance, and really taking forward Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. Plus also, I think what I really appreciated in your presentation was about the elaboration on the stakeholder consultation, which is going to be so critical as we move ahead, and of course certainly about the reduction of disputes. So thank you. We'll come back to more questions, and now I turn to Customs, Member Customs, Shri Surjit Bhujpalji, for his address and the type of reforms that we see being undertaken to enhance the risk-based assessment and also reduction of transaction cost as we go ahead on customs clearances. Shri Bhujpal, over to you.
A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Confederation of Indian Industries, for having invited me to spend a few minutes over this microphone. Now, as I stand here, it appears to be like it is a year-long process. Once the students in the schools, they prepare for the final exams, and for us in the Ministry of Finance, the half-yearly exam had started when we initiated the pre-budget interactions with CII and the host of trade bodies, industry associations, line ministries, departments, state governments also. And while doing so, we have been able to formulate certain ideas and it will be well within the paradigm of today's discussions that when I say that customs is something which impacts not only you, me, but maybe a small laborer who would be working abroad and coming back to India with his money or his products or his purchases, how exactly does he benefit, what his experiences are once he comes to the airport, and how does he feel landing in India, and how does our big businesses, our entrepreneurs, once they travel from India abroad and back, how exactly has been that experience, how exactly has been this growing segment of experience in our e-commerce segment. This is something very ambitious. The courier logistics and e-commerce has occupying a very major public discourse space in the country and globally also. There have been advancements globally, and India has been watching very closely. There have been ministerial interventions, ministerial collaborations, including the DPIIT, Commerce, DGFT, the Revenue, Finance. How exactly should we put things together? And the budget has been an opportunity, and we're extremely thankful to the Honorable Finance Minister for having taken on board all your views, all of our suggestions, because we are as equal stakeholders as you are right now. As I mentioned, it does have a long line of impacts. It doesn't stop, as I said, for the student, doesn't stop at the international travelers, doesn't stop at the doorstep of the warehouse keepers, because that is another area where we have attempted to tweak, if I don't use the word revamp, of the warehousing provisions and the customs law. We've been able to attempt a little tweaking here and there to provide an ease of doing business for this segment. We also have endeavored that in our digital ecosystem, customs is one of the areas of administration in the country which has got a huge digital footprints. Something which we announce here before the microphone, before you or the finance minister announces in the August House of the Parliament, necessarily needs to be backed up with that robust system, digital architecture. Without that, I think it will be no gainsaying that we will not be able to achieve the last mile. So we are extremely thankful that the Honorable Finance Minister touched upon very critical aspects of customs administration, that is the digital oversight, digital administration, how exactly we put things together on a platform where everybody talks and speaks to each other in a manner which eases compliance. And as I say compliance, we have something 600 plus notifications which come into play once your goods are transacted cross-border. And we have got 60 plus agencies who do play a role in our customs cargo clearance. Some are in the manner of live clearances, as was mentioned by the Honorable Finance Minister, like the Wildlife Crime Control Bureau, the animal quarantine, the planned quarantine, etc. But there are others who would be expecting some sort of a certificate process being rolled out, some sort of a compliance in the matter of LPCOs in the compliance requirement before you endeavor to import goods or before you endeavor to export goods out. So as I said, this has been a very challenging and very all-encompassing opportunity to present these facts before the Indian public. We have attempted a little tweaking of the Act also. In six instances, the Act has undergone little amendments here and there. I think you would be well within your rights to have gone through them yesterday, and today I think you could also do that. And while doing it, we have brought in certain clauses, certain words, certain phrases, which will bring in large-scale impact while we transact business across the borders. As again repeating, now apart from the passengers, apart from the Indian big businesses, the micro and the small enterprises also find a lot of benefits out of this budget from the customs perspective. My colleague Anupam Prakash has detailed out some of the detailed processes which has been undertaken. In the manufacturing sector, we are looking at making India a little more robust, the manufacturing competitive, so that inflow of goods and raw materials from across the borders happens in a more seamless manner, happens to be more timely, predictable manner, so that it gets attended to with a lot more certainty. Now that is what is going to enable our exporters to take the benefit from your supply chains. Your global supply chains are more predictable and more certain, and the clearances happen in the manner where it is digital, where the physical interfaces are not there, where the process of non-intrusivity in the custom processes, as was announced by the Honorable Finance Minister, to endeavor to a phase where our scanning process will be non-intrusive, utilizing the best of the artificial intelligence technology which it went hand, and to deploy them to the best of the cargo clearances happening at the major ports. Over the past, we have had numerous occasions in which the CBIC has engaged with the stakeholders, including the CII, and we're extremely thankful that has given us an opportunity to look at and to review our processes, our requirements for reforms, our requirements in the tariff area or the taxes area also. And I would admit here while standing before you that this process has been truly very consultative, very cooperative, and has been a coordinated approach once we come up to this big day which was yesterday. And I would also like to add that during the process, the Government of India also had endeavored to ascertain what could be some of the better global practices which have been faced in various areas of customs administration. Some of them have been taken on board. There will be times to come in the coming days where the department will continue to engage with all of you as a body entity or as an individual cross-sector of the ecosystem also to make it a truly cooperative exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shri Bhujbal. It's a pleasure and an honor now to also welcome in our midst Shri Arvind Srivastavaji, the Secretary, Department of Revenue. Secretary, thank you very much. Thank you and welcome for sparing your time, being here with this community of industry, and where we always say that this is to be the bread and butter session of the industry, the taxation side, and you lead it so very effectively, and it's great to have Secretary Revenue with us in this session. Before I request the Secretary Revenue, it's my pleasure and honor, of course, to invite the Chairman CBIC for his address, Shri Vivek Chaturvedi ji.
Director General CII, Mr. Banerjee, President Mr. Memani, colleagues on the dais, members of the CII, ladies and gentlemen. It's always difficult to speak almost towards the end, particularly when your colleagues have fleshed out the details of what is there in the budget proposal. And to make matters even worse, I was looking at the analysis document so diligently prepared by the CII, and all the 34 pages in Chapter 5 relating to indirect taxation have captured practically everything which is there in the budget proposals. Now, be that as it may, and also for the sake of brevity, I would rather focus on the philosophy behind what we have done in this budget. Now, on the indirect tax, largely as you would have noticed, there are two very distinct strands emerging. One is simplifications and reforms of certain processes which relate to import and export of goods in the country. And the other, of course, is in relation to exemptions being provided on rates on specific goods. And it has been a very calibrated and very nuanced approach which the government has taken when we were looking at the rate part specifically. We looked at very specific sectors, very critical sectors for the industry as well as for the country and the economy. Things like energy security, so you have exemptions to articles like sodium antimonate that goes into the manufacture of solar glass panels, on monazite, which goes into manufacturing of magnets for electric vehicles, exemption for setting up of nuclear power plants, and exemption to capital goods for the manufacture of lithium-ion cells that go into the manufacture of the energy storage, the battery energy storage systems. Similarly, a lot of thought has also gone into promoting the MSME sector, our leather industry particularly, shoe uppers being an item very specifically given a treatment of customs duty exemption for the purposes of enabling its export. And of course benefits at the individual level also, where 17 new drugs have been added to the list. These are anti-cancer treatment drugs where exemption has been provided. In the list of rare diseases, 7 more rare diseases have been added. For people who are unfortunately afflicted by any of those, customs duty exemptions for import of drugs and goods required for the treatment of that has also been incorporated. In the defense sector, there has been an exemption provided for raw materials for the manufacture of parts which will aid in the MRO operations on the defense side. So a lot of calibrated approach, a lot of thought going into what are the sectors where the industry could become more resilient, more competitive, particularly in view of the headwinds on the trade and supply side. And that part, it is also equally complemented by the process reforms that have been undertaken, which will, we hope, provide for a lot of facilitation to the trade. Announcements like a deferral of duty for clients like the authorized economic operator, which will then give you a leeway to clear your goods on a transaction basis every day and only pay the duty at the end of the month on the first of the succeeding month. And also the proposal that we would try to expand the ambit of the scheme by bringing in a different class of manufacturers, importers who would be accorded a similar treatment on deferral. Changes that will be made to our courier regulations, where we have removed the value limit, the value cap of 10 lakh rupees for the purposes of export. This will benefit, I'm sure, the industry at large and also the MSME sector, particularly items like bespoke furniture and niche areas of handicrafts, which could have a value implication of more than 10 lakhs and which we're finding it difficult to be, exported through the courier route. We've also addressed the problems of returns and rejects, which is of course a big problem because returns and rejects do account for almost 20-25% of the consignments. We try to bring in a concept of establishing the identity of the goods that went out of the country and which are now being re-imported, so that issues of opening of packages, establishing identities and consequential demands on duty are taken care of. And then of course my colleague also referred to the ease of living provisions in the baggage rules, where we've hiked up the general free allowance to 75,000 for tourists coming in, and also for foreign tourists the amount has gone up. We've made life slightly simpler by increasing the limits for the transfer of residence, not only for Indians who are coming from abroad, but also for foreigners who have long-term visa for stay in India. And I'm sure that all these measures collectively will help the trade and the industry in meeting the headwinds and also bringing in a certain degree of predictability and certainty in planning your businesses, both in the medium as well as in the long range. So for the sake of brevity, I will stop here, and of course the CBIC's technical team with all the JSS, Customs and TRU being here, we are all here to also answer your subsequent questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chaturvedi, for really talking about those very significant reforms as we have seen, and how do we really get on with the trust-based compliance that we talked about and taxpayer engagement. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasure and an honor to again welcome the Revenue Secretary. Revenue Secretary, we have had the pleasure, privilege of talking to you before the budget. You had been very patiently listening to many requests and many submissions that were made by the industry before the budget, and we've seen the elaborate exercise that you went through. We have seen phenomenal reflection of that in the budget that came out yesterday by the Honorable Finance Minister. Revenue Secretary, again, if one may say that in you one has seen not only the ability and the patience to listen to each and every sections and sectors of the industry, but you have in detail always, we have seen whenever one has interacted with you, that you have done your exercises in terms of homework much before you meet that particular group. And today there is a cross-section of industry assembled here from different sectors, and it will be great to hear your perspectives, your thoughts as to how you expect the industry to respond and how you expect us to work given the phenomenal ease and on simplification and focus on this trust-based system that has been brought forward by you and your government. Ladies and gentlemen,
please welcome the Honorable Revenue Secretary to give his address at this session. Secretary.
Good afternoon, Shri Banerjee and other senior officials from CII, dignitaries who are there in the hall today, my colleagues on the dais. First of all, let me thank CII for having organized this conference or workshop to bring out various initiatives, decisions that have been taken as a part of budget. I just had a glance at the book that you have brought out in form of analysis, and it is a very well brought out analytical book in such a short span. So I must compliment all of you for this initiative and the hard work. You have already, I'm sure, would have heard most of the technical aspects of the budget speech, various proposals on Part B from my colleagues here who have done the drill down detailing and would have explained to you much better than probably what I would, considering that the tax proposals can be probably best explained by the people who have practically dealt with these tax issues. However, what I will in very brief like to bring out is the underlying thought process, because it is very important to understand that and see how these proposals are sort of interconnected in that sense. You have heard enough about government being committed to the cause of an honest taxpayer and trying to encourage what we would call as trust-based systems, which practically means that we trust the taxpayer to be generally honest, willing to be compliant, and we must build systems which acknowledge that reality. And those systems need to be real rather than simply a statement of good intention. And the proposals which we have brought out in the speech, in the budget this time, are our attempt to convert these aspirations or these expectations and vision of the government into something more operational, which can then be experienced by the individual taxpayer. And I will give two examples, one on the direct tax and one on the indirect tax, just trying to connect a lot of proposals together to show how it is working out. When you look at the proposals which are dealt with under penalty and prosecution in the direct tax side, though the terminologies are fairly negative, with negative connotation, but what it contains is a whole new architecture of the way in which taxpayer interacts with the tax department. The thought process is, how can we see to it that the taxpayer is in control of his affairs without really needing validation from the department through various types of compliances or undergoing various types of interactive procedures. And in that regard, I like to explain the entire, sort of a life cycle of what we have thought about, some which were already done, some which have been added on, supplemented or improved as we have gone along. So let's take the case of income tax, where the starting point of interaction with the department naturally is the returns. At the end of the day, your interaction with the department typically is when there are issues of difference in the way you have filed your return and the way department interprets it. It could be factual inaccuracies, inconsistencies within your returns, or it could be things beyond that. The first thing which has been done is the expansion of the time which is available for revision of your returns. So it may look very mechanical, because all said and done what we have done is something available till December has been extended till March. But what it is allowing is a greater calm approach by the taxpayer himself to correct whatever he feels or has come to his notice in his returns, to see to it that at the end of the day, the risk of it getting the attention of the department through whatever risk engines they run is minimized. And this is something in the hands of the taxpayer himself. Quite obviously, not to disturb the incentive of filing your returns in time and well, there would be certain fee associated with this extended time frame. But nonetheless, it gives you the freedom to do something without being or without having any interference or any procedural hiccup from the department. Starting from that next year, for the next 4 years, we have already created a system of updated returns. And those returns have been very well used by the taxpayers. I understand close to 1.22 crore people have updated their returns. And these are again voluntary approach, where a taxpayer gets to know what is it missing in, or what is the additional or new information available to him, which helps him to update his returns. Again, because of the incentives associated with the system, as you go further down the line in those 4 years, there will be an additional tax implication. Yet again, it is a process which is completely in the control of and driven by the taxpayer himself. An additional window which has been created this year is saying that these updated returns can even be filed when a reassessment proceedings is on. After all, you getting to know something which needs probably to be updated in your returns, and you having got picked up by the department for reassessment through some risk engine, should not make much of a difference to the ability of that taxpayer to be able to update the return. So he is in a position to do that again. Because it is a case which has been there in the assessment, we are putting some additional effect of tax on it, and you are able to file this return. What is the benefit? The benefit is quite naturally, we are saying that your updated return now will become the base reference document for the assessing officer, and therefore you are in a position to control the outcome of that assessment much better, because as a taxpayer we are expecting that you would have accepted what is legitimate. And if at all there is a difference of view, the process of interaction with the department would be minimized only to that extent. At the end of this process, you would end up having an order of assessment where a very major change that has been done, and the department has, I must commend them for having taken this additional responsibility of seeing that assessment and penalty orders will be issued together. What additionally has been done is that a process under which underreporting could be settled by paying tax and interest without paying any penalty has been extended to misreporting with an additional tax to be paid, again without branding a guy with the terminology of penalty. So ultimately, even at the end of this process of assessment, SSE has a choice to pay up what is needed to be paid legitimately, without getting branded and without having to go through the whole process of further appeal, etc. After having crossed this stage where he can pay, whether it is underreporting or misreporting, is when he goes into the process of appeal itself. So you would have seen at every stage there is a kind of a pause which is available to the taxpayer to assess and decide and not really take the dispute forward. Now, so far, the general impression about the Department of Taxes that they would like to engage with you, they would like to raise disputes. And the approach here is to somehow see that the choice, if the dispute is to be taken forward, needs to be with the SSE and not with the tax department. And the tax department is willing to allow you to correct or to take a non-dispute path at various stages in the entire process. If you look at the similar initiative on the CBIC side, we have created in CBIC, there is a very successful system of what is called authorized economic operators, who are people who are certified or accredited by the department and are getting certain special preferential treatment from the Department of Customs. But at the end of the day, their transactions, because in customs it can be fairly intrusive, it involves physical interactions, it involves physical movement and inspection of goods. That AEO system of accreditation of an entity does not necessarily transfer itself into transaction-based interaction that eventually the department has. So the entire set of systems or changes that we are trying to do is to see that how the two of them can in somehow merge. Whether an entity-based accreditation system can in some way be acknowledged to provide a better or a preferential treatment when it comes to individual transactions. And a whole host of measures, which I am sure would have been explained to you, have been followed in this regard, whether it is for the exporters or importers. We have also tried to see, again, for the taxpayer or the business to be in control of his affairs, we have tried to create this, what is called, what manufacturer do we call him? Eligible manufacturer, where the eligible manufacturer himself can get a similar treatment as an AEO. There would be facilities available to him to electronically seal his exports and send it straight to ships and things of this nature. So at the end of the day, the arrangement being made is in a manner in which if we can trust you, we would allow the system to acknowledge it in that fashion. And a whole host of things have been put in place in this regard. A similar arrangement we have tried to work out in the warehousing, customs warehousing system, where again transaction-based approvals are getting replaced by an entity-based audit, where you can raise risk flags, allow the entity to set the things right. At the end of the day, the entire thought process here has been that government would like to trust the taxpayer. We generally believe the taxpayers, to be honest. And by the way, there are statistics to show that. I have had this interesting discussion with the CBDT where we were debating on the fact that all the measures where a taxpayer pays tax by himself, whether it is TDS or self-assessment or advance tax, contributes almost entirely to the tax being collected. And a very little amount comes out of the litigation system. So it shows and gives us confidence that this trust is not misplaced. And we would like to take this forward more effectively by implementing it across the way in which the department handles itself vis-a-vis the taxpayers. The last point here is a lot of these systems will eventually depend upon how well our technology systems work and how well our officers in the ground respond to these changes which have been made in laws and regulations. So this will be a very big task ahead of us. Both the boards are committed to this cause. We will try to ensure that these visions which have been put in legal frameworks also get implemented and enforced in the field in a manner where this big picture is also the real picture which the genuine individual taxpayer or industry sort of sees when he is interacting with the department. I also would like to take this opportunity to, one, compliment CII for having brought out this transparent analysis of the budget. And at the same time, since I am talking to a lot of industries and likes of them here, would also like to make this, I wouldn't call it an advice or a suggestion, but just an observation that tax proposals typically, the way they are referred to in the budget, by its very nature, it's a speech. So it is very sharply worded, very clean, and probably everything that had to be stated has come out unambiguously in the budget speech itself. But it is also responsibility cast upon all of us to see that the brevity of the speech is not, utilized for filling in the gaps which are not there at all, and create interpretations around it which cause either misgivings or create an impression which is probably not right and not the intention of the government. So probably bodies like yours have this very onerous responsibility to see to it that this, what is reflected in the letter and spirit of budget, is also the way in which it is understood across. As department, we are very open to, explaining. We have created a fairly intense, detailed FAQs around proposals. Wherever we are seeing gaps, the departments, I'm encouraging them to see to it that those gaps are filled by supplementing the FAQs even further. And we would be more than happy to ensure that those clarifications are out whenever they are needed. As far as I can see it, that transparency exists already in the way in which the proposals have been drafted, presented, and the details presented in the FAQs. My request to all of you would be that there is probably no reason or room for speculation around the discussion, around the decisions. And if we could engage constructively and ensure that if at all there is an issue of doubt, it gets sorted out before it becomes an unnecessary news. That would help us to take the reform agenda forward. You will appreciate that a reform agenda is always about making changes which affect people differently. And for the government, which is a democratic entity, to get the confidence to take the reform agenda forward aggressively, it will need not only cooperation but an equal partnership from the industry. And I look forward to seeing that from an entity at the apex like yours, and would hope that this also seeps down at the grassroots throughout India, with all the similar organizations who are a part of your network, and also to the individual industry and businesses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend Secretary, for your address. I think you have again reiterated the principles, the fundamentals, and of course talked about trust. very importantly, the space that you spoke about and talked about. You also, at the end, talked about the responsibility and the onus and the way industry can respond. Of course, we shall take it to each and every affiliated associations of our sectoral as well as regional and all sections of the industry. We look forward to really partnering in this, as you mentioned, as we move ahead. Thanks for talking about also technology, and also, of course, from your side, if I may say, you also spoke about a lot depends on the two-way traffic, including the people on the ground from your from the department. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much once again for this brilliant address of yours. The Secretary has very kindly agreed to take a couple of questions, and he said that his team is here and they would join him in the responses. So we would try and utilize the next few minutes effectively. I'll start Mr. Rajiv Memani. Rajiv, to kick off with a comment and a question for the Secretary and the team, especially for the Secretary, please.
The Honorable Revenue Secretary, Mr. Arvind Srivastav, all members of CBDT, CBIC, and senior revenue officials. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree with you more, sir. I think the focus on reducing the number of disputes, having a more trust-based system, I would say particularly the way it's come out in customs. I think the decriminalization focus and also nudges to some sectors which can crowd in a lot of private sector investments, whether it is on the data center side or it's on nuclear and other areas. I think that's been very positive, and also the benefits given, long-term benefits given to GIFT, I think they are also very, very good. We are still, from CII standpoint, I think we are in the process of collecting feedback from our members, if they have any questions, clarifications and everything. The few that we have got, sir, I'll raise them, and it'll be good to get definitely your perspective and maybe some of the other colleagues who are here. First is this on the, if there could be an early release of the draft rules under the New Income Tax Act 2025, I think that would be helpful. And also the integrated ICDS and IND-AS framework. The second was if there can be a more collaborative design of the automated safe harbor and APA fast track, which is a big, I would say, I should have mentioned that. What has been done on particularly for the consolidation of the definition of technology services and also the safe harbor that's been unambiguously created, and also the speed on the APA front. I think that would be very, very helpful. The third was on the SEZ reforms. If it could be considered on a duty foregone basis as the current, being one at a time. On the MAT, fourth point was on MAT. I know, I think this has been a proactive process to try and see how we get into the new system. But for some sectors, sir, particularly I would say for the REITs and InvITs, this will have a very significant implication. REIT and InvITs have been very important sources of raising capital for real estate companies and for infrastructure companies. They have significant amount of MAT credit that is there, and also the way the REIT InvIT has been there, how dividend income gets treated in the hands of the unit holders is slightly different. So I would urge you if you can look at that, because REIT InvITs have become very, very important source of raising capital, and also as we know that even the government is something that they'll be looking at it. Finally, I would say on the deduction of earlier the deduction of interest expense of up to 20% was allowed for dividend income. I think there was when it came, there was a lot of pressure to why not 100%, but government put a ceiling of 20%. Just wanted to get your perspective on was there any particular reason why that 20% was reduced? I would also like to compliment on what you have done on share buyback. I think this was a big demand, particularly for the sort of non-promoter shareholders. I think this was something that brings it at par with what was earlier. In terms of the promoter shareholders, I think your approach there has been very, very clear in terms of how what you have done, why you have dealt with it. I think the only sort of intended or unintended consequence of this is that when it was taxed as dividends, if they, in a corporate holding company, when they upstream the dividend, they got the full deduction of that. In case of now that it's taxed as capital gains or a buyback tax, whatever you may call that, when they upstream the dividend, this money will not be credited. So it will be taxed at the hands again of the shareholder. But I think overall I would say this is something that's come out very positively. There were some questions that came on electronics manufacturer, but since I see Virat here, I think I'm sure he'll probably be able to articulate this much better than I can. So these were some of the initial comments, sir, that I thought I'll just mention to you. And as I said, we will be coming out with, and like we had the pleasure of engaging with you in a very patient way when we were presenting all the proposals, I think hopefully we'll get the opportunity to engage with you and your teams as we present. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't see you, so I didn't acknowledge you. So, Mr. Memani, also, thank you. Many of these questions do require a bit of technical detailing, which I will probably request my colleagues here to talk about. As far as the income tax rules are concerned, you have heard the Finance Minister herself saying that it will be brought out soon to give enough time to people to familiarize themselves with it. So we are working on that, and you will soon get to hear from us on finalization of the rules. On the SEZ, the announcement has told what is the approach going to be, and the details will be worked out because it will be in the form of a notification, exemption notification under the Customs Act. The challenge for us would be to ensure that either one way, for the SEZs to be able to sell to DTAs or DTAs to be able to compete with them, we need to ensure that there is a level playing field. While duty doesn't become a deterrent for SEZs to sell into the DTA, at the same time the treatment on duty should not be the one which results in any non-level playing for the DTA. So at the end, this balance will have to be exercised, and we are going to work on finding a good formula for that. Let us also remember that SEZ's focus is exports, and that continues to remain as exports. The whole arrangement is meant for that purpose, and therefore this window being created is expected to be a one-time, limited time frame window, and we hope during this period the various uncertainties and volatilities of the international trade will also pass over, and we will be in the position to get back stability on that front too. Coming to the issue of APA rules, yes, we would, in fact, the department is very positive in engaging with the stakeholders, not only CBDT but even CBI. And a lot of these implementation systems in various forms when they are getting built, we would like to put some system in place where we engage with the stakeholders to see to it that what we bring out is both practical, serves the need of the policy, and at the same time is efficient enough for people to be able to utilize it or comply. On the issue of you mentioned about the interest on dividend. Dividend, I would assume, is a passive income, and ideally you do not give any deduction on a passive income. Interest, if at all it is being done as a leveraging exercise as a part of the business, then will anyway be allowed as a deduction from the business income. So I think that was the thought process behind. On the MAT window, yes, the overall approach, you will remember, government has already committed itself that we would move towards the arrangement where you do not really have much of these deductions. A clean, plain system of taxation is what industry wanted, has been brought out. Due to certain legacy issues, maybe the transition is becoming a little difficult, but we would like to encourage the transition in that direction. The changes done in MAT is essentially a move in that way, and quite naturally it has been carefully calibrated to see that this transition is not unnecessarily onerous or burdensome or in any way causing a retrospective kind of a effect on the industry. So keeping all that in mind, including the fact that some companies in that regime have already moved into the new tax regime, we need to also keep an element of equity. So a lot of limitations which have been looked into, and this very finely calibrated strategy has been brought. On the issue of as I said before, interaction with all of you on nitty-gritties and details, I would definitely encourage that. Now that you have the budget announcements, my suggestion would be you could possibly do detailing to an extent you would like us to look at it, and that would be a more useful discussion than only issues of discussions on the principle. So that is what I'll leave it at. If there is anything that you would like to add.
Just to add what RS said, and in respect of the rules and the forms, I would request, even once it is put in the public domain as mentioned, I would like that you should engage the members of CIA, that they should be actively giving their inputs, and because ultimately all the stakeholders will be giving a lot of good inputs, and which we will be able to improve the functionality as well as the user experience for the forms, because that will be very grateful. Thank you.
One more question. One more is, Virat, Rajiv mentioned about you, so I must turn to you and for the manufacturing side, and Mike here very quickly, please. Yeah.
Thank you, CB, thank you, Mani. Mr. Srinivasan, officials. Firstly, I want to thank you for this budget announcement. I think the part that likely didn't get mentioned that loudly in the media and the coverage was the very strong tech focus in this budget. If you connect all the dots, because it's in various parts of the speeches, but if you connect the dots between semiconductor, electronics manufacturing, and data centers, and the ability to bring in equipment more rapidly to help vendors, and some of the other pieces, actually there's a really strong tech portion to this budget. I just wish it was picked up better, or probably we should have framed it better, and we'll do that job. So that just I want to thank, because that's sometimes because it appears in A and then B, and sort of you don't connect that piece, but if you look at it, it's very strong, so I thank you for that. There are some small issues like inverted duties and stuff like that. I don't want to bother you with that. We'll come back to you. I think it's normally we'll representative show to you some of those issues, because one of the challenges is that capital equipment is now shifting in a very significant manner. Building of those is very tough, and so there's a huge effort on, and I think that is something that will be helpful if at least the anomalies that exist might be addressed. We'll present it to you for your consideration, but I don't want to sort of take any more time. I just want to focus the fact that the tech aspect of this budget is, in my humble opinion, one of the strongest threads that runs across the budget, across many sectors. So thank you for that.
No, I think well, I'll request the others to kindly stay back, and Secretary has to leave it, and I know there is no reason but to really give him this choice of leaving today, because one knows it's a very, very critical day just post-budget, but it's so wonderful to see you take out time and give that perspective and also respond. Thanks for all that you have done for industry and all the trust that you have bestowed on the industry. I'm sure you will see the response. We will live up to it, and thank you once again. We could look forward to engaging with you and continuously as we move forward, and keep seeking your thoughts as we need to participate in this journey together. Thank you once again, Revenue Secretary, for being with us. Yeah. There are several actually, but the others are staying back. Come. We'll walk you. Want to talk? It should be better if it is had by all. I'm offering one suggestion. To help senior citizens and especially super citizens.
If you exempt their interest income to be included in income, total income, this will give a good relief to the super seniors at least. Kindly take note of this. And to compensate this revenue loss which you would be incurring, which not be much, the Paytm transactions thousands of crores of rupees are evading taxes. It is depriving GST to be increased, and then GDP also is getting affected because they are bypassing and not paying tax. If some action is taken on Paytm transactions, that will increase your revenue. I am giving you suggestion both. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you to the Secretary. We have some time for a few questions, but very limited. So please identify yourself and please be brief. Please.
Can I have the mic, please? My voice is good. Sir, this ITA rules 3 primarily define the valuation based on engine cubic capacity and not the EV vehicles. So the company's employees, the employer, they are providing the EV vehicle to employees as a prerequisite. They are facing the correct valuation of the vehicles. This is my first point. Second point is the custom duty on personal imports reduced to 10% from 20%. And I believe this is for e-commerce platform. If we import through DHL, any import consignment of high-end electronics or apparels from abroad, USA, Europe, and the duty will be 10%. Is there any the valuation or any stipulation value of that, capping on that? Because if we, in case of transfer of residence, the baggage rule is 75,000, which is increased from 50,000 to 75,000. Is there any limitation on that? Now, the most importantly, I mentioned in most of the conferences, the GST or the customs notification circulars, that doesn't define the subject, on which subject, on which the classification of goods or what is the impact of this, like DGFT notification, that is very much clear. What will be the impact of this notification or the circular? Some clarity should be there, because in each and every circular or notifications, refer so and so, again refer so and so. So there is no clarity on that. We have to refer so many circulars. Now this one more important point is the TCS reduced to 2% from 5% to 20% for overseas tour packages. What about the inbound tour packages? We are promoting the overseas tour packages, not the inbound tour packages, which is very important. For the AEO, there is an ambiguity in that. AEO benefit can be given if AEO is exporting or importing to AEO. If the other party is not AEO, benefit will not be available. Now, second point is the macro.
I think I was actually restrict, otherwise others will not get chance.
Last line.
What we can do is we can compile all those and
yes,
then give also.
The macro.
I asked this way should be brief.
The last line with the AEO, the 5-star export houses and the the MSME, they should be automatically granted to this AEO certification. Thank you.
You may want to say later also, you want to take it now, or we can probably collate it and give it.
I think that will be better.
Any other question is there?
Can I just raise a question?
Some brief question is there.
Yes, just a brief one. This is about the presumptive tax, which has come in since last year, in the last budget. And what was noticed in this budget is that the MAT should not apply to presumptive tax. And this has been realized, and going forward from tax year 26-27, there will be no MAT on the presumptive tax. But the presumptive itself has been introduced from 25-26. So this 1 year of gap, on which, I mean, is it some intention behind it, or was it again a miss that, it should have come for the same year, that is from tax year 25-26?
This amendment, no, that MAT will not apply to presumptive. This is available for most of presumptive incomes, except for 2 incomes, which you said clearly it came from Finance Act 2025, cruise shipping and electronic manufacturing. So that income, you see, that income would be, we believe that income would be accrued in sometime in 26-27. If we exempt it for 25-26 also, that would be kind of retrospective amendment, so to say. So because we are making amendments here in the new Income Tax Act 2025, that is one point. Second is that wherever MAT has been paid, suppose on that income, that full MAT credit would be available to the foreign companies. That also we have clarified.
So just the point to be extended here, it's not the question of payment of MAT, it's the whole point of keeping accounts, and that is how presumptive helps the non-resident to avoid maintenance of accounts. So it's more about the maintenance part of it than the amount of tax exactly.
Going forward, we have sorted out the issue because I believe in cruise shipping and these electronic manufacturing, both the sectors. So any income that would come, that would be largely it would be an issue for tax year 26-27 onwards only. So
just sorry. Yep.
No, not in this. Probably he has raised several questions, so maybe one or two I can respond. So sorry for the break for this amity issue. You raised one or two issues regarding the AEO facilitation and baggage and transfer of residence and personal imports. So just to clarify, personal import is a different class altogether. Baggage and transfer of residence is different class. Import means you have some remittance to make, and it is not the case with the baggage and transfer of residence being claimed. The allowance of 50,000 to 75,000 is the general fee allowance. Under TR, you have a general fee allowance, you have additional benefits of personal use, personal fee, duty free, and you have a host of other benefits up to 7.5 lakhs. You can import item duty free. So that is a transfer of residence where we have consolidated all the previous provisions. So you do not refer to any of 35 previous circulars. So we have consolidated everything, transparently brought everything in one umbrella. So that is one thing you have pointed out. Second, you mentioned something about the AEO program. Domestically, the AEO benefit, AEO importer, AEO exporter, they are getting all the benefit. It's not limited to foreign supplier or foreign supply chain. They are getting highest level of facilitation in India. In respect of foreign destination, the AEO exporter get preferred treatment in destination country. So that is the distinction I want to clarify. Thank you.
So I got one question on AC.
1 minute.
Sir, one question on AC.
We will be running out of time.
Sir, only one question.
We have to close this room at 4:30 and our team from ENY. So I would now like to quickly go to Ms. Garima Pandey, partner ENY, and of course my friend Uday, then to give their perspectives. And what I will suggest is that we will be very open. I think the Revenue Secretary has suggested that we should come out with our points and we will be having a meeting. So I think we will be very happy if you can send your emails with all your comments. We will like to collate it, and we will be possibly, if need be, we can have another interactive session online also with members where we can take their queries like we did in GST time and possibly collate them and come, because otherwise what will happen is this will become a little bit. So I think now I like to please invite the ENY team, come and make a presentation. I think you will also have to be a little brief because I think.
Much and very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think lots of points on direct taxes have already been covered. The questions have already been raised by Rajiv. But before I start, I think I'll just thank the Government of India in terms of really presenting a very forward-looking direct tax package, which is designed to really promote investments, reduce litigation, and enhance India's competitiveness. I think few points that we still probably require a bit of deliberation is the 5-year exemption that has currently been given to foreign companies which are providing capital goods to Indian contract manufacturers. So, I think it's a very welcome step in terms of really strengthening the India's electronic manufacturing ecosystem and also controlling the anxiety that the foreign OEMs had on the PE or business connection-based taxation, which was arising because of the capital equipment and tooling equipment they were providing to the Indian contract manufacturers. So the limited point there is it's a 5-year exemption that has been currently provided. But when we look at this manufacturing investments, they usually have a very long gestation period. Usually it will go beyond the 5-year period. And also when you look at manufacturing ecosystem, it also has the stage 2, stage 3, capital investments that will happen from an expansion standpoint. The limited point, sir, is that the 5-year exemption period that we're talking about, should there be a recalibration to look at the period to be potentially longer, looking at more a sunset-free regime, because the investments will continue to happen and these assets would always be with the Indian contract manufacturer. So that's the first point on contract manufacturing. The other point is also on the exemption, which is limited only for manufacturing happening in custom bonded warehouses. But when you look at the manufacturing ecosystem here today, there will be custom bonded warehouses as well as DTAs from where the manufacturing is happening for exports to foreign OEMs. The request is, sir, that restricting this only to custom bonded warehouses may not fully address the concerns that some of the foreign OEMs would have when they are looking at the Indian contract manufacturing ecosystem, particularly who are doing manufacturing in the DTA setup as well. The last point, sir, again on this topic is condition B, which has been prescribed, which talks about production of electronic goods on behalf of the foreign company for a consideration. So final point here is that when you look at contract manufacturing, that is usually done by the contract manufacturers on a P2P basis, which effectively means that it may not necessarily be on behalf of, but for the foreign OEM as well. Also, there are practical scenarios where the foreign OEMs may be providing equipment and the supply of the manufactured product may be happening to another group company. So therefore, the request is that when we look at this condition, if there can be an appropriate clarification and amendment that can be brought in, which takes care of manufacturing not only on behalf but for the foreign enterprise, and also look at including associated enterprises because of the way some of these OEMs are structured. So that's really the larger points are on contract manufacturing. I think the only other point that I'll bring out, from clarity for taxpayers, is a combined assessment and penalty proceedings. So you brought out this point, and clearly I think this is a very welcome step in terms of avoiding the multiplicity of the proceedings which are currently happening. The only concern that it's currently bringing out, it's what is unclear is that once the two proceedings combine and there's a single assessment which is happening, how would the taxpayer get an opportunity to present its own bona fides, because the first time that they will come to know about any addition being made against them would be under a combined order. So that's really the concern which a lot of stakeholders are getting. And the other related point is that once a penalty demand is determined, it is a demand against a taxpayer, and which means that there will be pressure in terms of recovery. While clarity has been given that there will be no interest accrual till the time the appellate order from CIT or the ITAT order in case of DRP is passed, I think stakeholders would also want some clarity that when it comes to recovery of this penalty demand, that should also be kept in abeyance till the CIT order or the next ITAT order is passed. So these are two larger points that I wanted to bring out. I think most of it has been covered. Happy to take any reactions, sir, if you have any on this.
So regarding the first point, regarding contract manufacturing, the issue is what is the income of the foreign company. It is giving tooling, it is giving equipment, it is giving some goods to the contract manufacturer. So if suppose the contract manufacturer, he makes that electronic goods, and then again they for the foreign company, and then they go out of the custom bonded zone. So the issue was that whether they have a permanent establishment here or not, by virtue of providing that capital goods or not. So our thing was that it results into a permanent establishment. That is one thing. But then we wanted to give certainty on this aspect that even though it results into a permanent establishment, but only by virtue of providing these three things, capital goods, equipment and tooling, there should not be any appropriation of the income of the foreign company to India. So that is what that clarity we have sought to provide. Otherwise, as far as contract manufacturer is concerned, he gets his taxation. I don't think there is any issue.
Yeah.
And as far as foreign company also is concerned, even there the limited point before us was this only. So that we have tried to address. But still, if you feel that there are other issues, we welcome that you give a detailed representation on these issues. we would be happy to sort out any other issues, secondary issues emerging out of whatever we have unveiled in the budget.
Sure, sir.
I think that is a better idea because there are too many technical issues. I think I'll just excuse everybody if we can get a good photo because I know the chairman wants to just leave. No, not now. So we have the photo. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Would you like to make some comments? Very, very brief. I know everybody is kind of busy. 2-3 things. One is I should really commend on the customs bit. I think this entire journey that has been started on this trust-based procedure, I think is very inspirational, and I think I'm very excited for this entire process, and I think with the timelines that you kind of mentioned, okay, it will be good to kind of figure out where we land with this, but very, 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 very good. So that was one comment. Couple of questions I had, and you may answer, we may talk about it later. I know you guys are going to come back with a guideline on eligible import or manufacture. If there is anything that you would want to suggest as to what those probable parameters would be for those eligible manufacturing importers, if you want to kind of suggest now, that would be kind of good. So that was one. The second is implementation of intermediary, the deletion of that intermediary entry in the GST legislation. Do we know that from what day would it be? I know most of the people have left, but if there is any kind of understanding about when that enactment, whether it will be with the enactment of the finance bill or whether it will be from a notified date, if that's something that can be clarified at some point of time, that will help, because people will need to kind of go about handling their own kind of compliances based on that and get ready for it. And the last bit is that we missed some kind of dispute settlement setup on the customs side. I know that there is a inherent discomfort to kind of grant amnesty of some kind, especially for smuggling and narcotics and those kind of things because of cross-border activity. But I think the industry has been asking for this because the litigation quantum is increasing. So if there is any comment that, if at all now or later, we may want to kind of agree. So these were the three kind of broad things to be kind of talked about. I think maybe they will also give a comment. And my duty is just to thank you all, and thank you all for participating, and I will make it cut and short. Thank you. Thank you.